The following audiobook is a Crippled Devils production, directed by Tom Berry and read to you by James Sirius Grimm. The Legend of Sparda. Book 3, The Redemption. Chapter 1, Showdown. The ground surrounding the prison squished under Sparda's cloven feet as he approached Marlene and her mother. They did not know what to do, but they did know that this demon had just saved their lives.
We must leave.
Sparda's voice was stern and calm.
No! We can't! They'll kill us!
The mother retorted.
No one will kill you. You will be safe.
But what about you?
Marlene said with a voice of innocence.
Won't your friends be mad at you for what you did?
Do not worry about me. I'll be fine. It's them that have something to be worried about.
Sparda had become a new being. The cloud of darkness that had surrounded him since birth was gone, and he could now breathe a refreshing breath of clarity. This newfound certainty filled him with willpower he had never experienced before.
Come now. We must leave.
Sparda picked up the mother and Marlene in both his arms and flew away. His goal was to get them back through the portal to the human world, but there was one problem. They were currently in one of the farthest regions of hell, and the portal was easily over 20 miles away. Another problem was, being in the farthest region of hell, he would have to pass many different clan territories. The first of the territories he would have to pass was the Frost Pit. He knew he could not just fly through with 2 humans in arm, and he knew that fighting them would increase the likelihood that Marlene and her mother would be killed.
But it has to be done,
Sparda thought. The Frost Pit, though not incredibly large, was incredibly dangerous for any opposition. The icy environment gave the Frosts a definite advantage. There was no real ground to gain one's footing, and the steepness of the surrounding walls and platforms left the opposition at a constant disadvantage, having to fend off attackers from above. As Sparda drew closer, he flew lower to the ground and eventually landed.
You must be quiet. Do not make any sudden movements.
Sparda looked Marlene and her mother directly in the eyes as he gave his orders.
Right there.
He pointed to a small opening about 100 yards away at the end of the pit.
That's where we must go. Follow me as best as you can. The ground is very slick, so move slowly.
And thus they entered the deadly Frost Pit. Sparda took small steps as he walked, allowing Marlene and her mother to keep up and also avoiding any noise that could be made. The pit was freezing cold, and the ice created a slight breeze that whirled throughout the caves above the ground, which housed the Frost themselves. They had made it near halfway through the pit when Marlene noticed the dead body of a Frost on the ground and was about to scream, but Sparda placed his finger over her mouth and shook his head, indicating that she must remain silent. But as Sparda turned around, a Frost was standing right there, looking him dead in his eyes. The dialect of the Frost was absolutely foreign to Marlene and her mother, as with most other demons they heard speak. But Sparda knew all the language variations in hell, and knew exactly what the Frost had said. In the human language, the Frost had said,
Where are you taking those humans, General?
A simple question, yes, but a dangerous one at the same time. Sparda could feel the eyes of the other Frosts, peering down at him and the humans from their caves. He did not want to start a fight. Not here. Not with them here.
I am taking them for execution before Lord Mandus. He requests them. Now, let me pass.
Sparda could feel the other Frost coming further and further out of their caves, ready to gruesomely kill the humans. Almost every demon in hell considered the killing of humans a game, something to escape their permanent servitude in hell and unleash their wrath upon weaker beings. The Frost stepped aside, allowing Sparda and the humans to pass. But as soon as an opening presented itself, the frost attacked. Sparda did not have to see it in order to know that the frost had prepared its C-shaped frozen claw for attack and was about to stab Marlene. Just as the claw was about to graze Marlene's face, there was a sudden flash of light. Sparda's sword was unsheathed, and the frost clawed lay severed on the ground. The frost stumbled back in pain and cast its slanted eyes at Sparda, who stood in front of the humans in a fighting stance. The frost then squinted as it observed Sparda.
There's something different.
Its eyes then widened and it belted out.
Traitor is the trail.
The frost was silenced as Sparda decapitated him. Then, eerie grumbles began to arise from the caves as Marlene's mother held her close. Sparda realized that he now had to fight his way out.
I will not let anything happen to them.
He reassured himself. Suddenly, hundreds of frost flooded out of their caves, all screaming the same thing in their dialect.
Mother two.
Or a
Traitor.
Sparda had fought the frost before, but never had it been with the direct intent to kill them. He not only had to kill them all, but he had to make sure none of them got their hands on Marlene or her mother. The first wave of frosts attempted to come directly down on Marlene, but were intercepted by Sparda, who had turned his blade into a spear and bashed them all back up to where they came from. As those frost were knocked upward, more came down. Sparda then began spinning the spear above his head quickly in a helicopter motion, slicing off blades and limbs of the incoming frosts. As the final falling frost was knocked back, Sparda and the humans stood surrounded on the ground by yet 100 more frosts.
Stay completely still. Do not make one move.
Sparda said to Marlene and her mother. They nodded in compliance. Suddenly, frosts were charging from all sides. Sparda did not have time to think, so he acted. As the closest wave drew near, Sparda charged them head-on and suddenly let the ice glide his body across the ground. As he slid, he made one gigantic slice with his blade in sword form, turning all the incoming frost to shards of ice. Sparda looked back at Marlene and her mom, who trembled as the other frosts continued the charge. Sparda ran back towards them, with incredible balance on the ice. Then his wings snapped backward, and he sent himself barreling at the frost in a spiraling motion. Large gaps were created within the masses, as Sparda went through the frost like a shredder. Not one frost had made it even 10 feet away from Marlene and her mother, as the piles of frozen limbs and bodies grew larger. Over 200 frosts lay dead or deformed on the ground as a final wave approached. Sparda stood near Marlene and her mother and fought them all off in a cyclic motion. Sparda then smashed the ground around his and the human's feet, cracking it, forming a gap between them and the frosts. He now had the higher ground, and the remaining frosts lurked back and forth, wondering how they would attack Sparda. Then, one belligerent frost decided to attack, but was split in two by the Sparda's vertically spinning blade before he could even reach him. As his body parts fell to the ground, the other frosts began to back away, knowing that they now did not stand a chance. A voice resonated from the highest cave in the pit. The chief frost then revealed himself to Sparda. He stood more menacing than the other frosts, with 2 blades instead of 1, with icy spikes on its back, and a crown made of ice shards.
So you are the traitor Lord Montes spoke of?
Sparda did not respond, and fixed his glare on the head frost.
You think you can defy the throne? I will defy the throne.
Sparda spoke.
This time, you have taken your heresy too far. This is where it ends.
The frost leaped from his position above Sparda, and Sparda flew directly up towards him, his sword unsheathed. The collision created a bright blue light, and when it died down, the head frost had lost both its blades.
You
But before he could continue his statement, Sparda had stabbed him right through the throat with absurd speed. He pushed his blade, and with 2 quick flashes, the Frost's body fell from the sky in small pieces. With his death, the other Frosts backed away into their caves, acknowledging their defeat. Sparda took his blade and wiped all the blood and ice shards off on the ground, causing it to steam as it fed off Sparda's rage. He picked Marlene and her mother up in both his arms again and flew out of the Frost's pit. Sparda had never felt better than this moment. Killing demons in this manner brought an indescribable feeling over him. As he slaughtered the Frosts, one thought ran through his mind constantly.
Mundus.
His body became smaller and smaller as he faded away into the darkness of hell. It did not take long for Sparda to come upon the home of the shadows. Remembering his recent run-in with the Frosts, he knew that it was now pointless to try and sneak through, and he also knew that if he intended to leave hell itself with 2 humans, he would have to fight them eventually anyway. The home of the shadows was actually a deep cavern that sat below the ground. To try and fly across it with 2 humans would be suicide. Thus, Sparda told Marlene and her mother to stay above ground.
It will not take long.
Sparda landed in the shadowy blackness of the shadows. All he could see were the bright red eyes of multiple shadows throughout the darkness. Then Sparda saw one shadow creeping its way up towards Marlene and her mother. He sliced it in 3 places, and it fell toward the ground.
Your miserable lives end today. Come meet your fate.
Shadows then exploded out of hiding, taking various shapes, some resembling blades, others resembling large mouths with razor-sharp teeth. Suddenly, long, narrow blades shot at Sparda. He jumped up away from them and found his footing directly on them, paralyzing the shadow temporarily. He then ran along the blade with incredible agility, heading directly for the shadow who was shooting the blade. It was pierced right through the eyes by Sparda's sword extending out. It writhed in pain and took a spherical form that glowed brightly, lighting part of the cavern. Suddenly, the shadows that had took blade forms hurled themselves at Sparda from both sides. He was able to dodge, causing them to crash into each other. Then, all of the shadows fell to the ground and surrounded Sparda. They reared back and suddenly shot out their long spikes all at once. As they shot out, Sparda ducked and dodged in a way that would break the back of most other demon. After all the spikes were shot, Sparda found himself in a web-like maze surrounded by a series of blades. They all stood in a stalemate, but not for long. Sparda used the spikes as platforms as he swung himself upward to the highest spike. He then unsheathed his sword and threw it hard at the shadows. He began to slide down the spikes following his blade as it smashed and pierced shadows left and right. Sparda jumped from spike to spike and continued to slide down as his blade continued to eviscerate shadow after shadow. As he neared the ground, he used his hands and swung off a spike and landed, holding out his right arm. Within seconds, his blade had found itself back in his hand. The scene was now completely different. Every shadow had taken a spherical form, and the entire cavern glowed with light. Sparda held his sword to his side and charged. He slashed his sword with blinding speed as he made his way through the vulnerable nest of shadows. As he made his final slash, the cavern became completely black again, and no shadow remained. Sparda flew back up to Marlene and her mother, appearing more alive than when he went in.
There is no time to waste. We have to keep moving.
And Sparda continued on his way back to the portal. But things were about to get more dangerous and more intense. Sparda has just obliterated 2 of the most imposing demon clans within Hell, but he knew that that was nothing compared to what he would have to face as he neared Mundus. Visions of an entire army heading towards him entered his mind. Sparda belted through the darkness of hell, and his mind raced. A darker threat was on the horizon. Chapter 2: Battle of Brethren. Flying with impossible speed, Sparda attempted to get back to the gate as quickly as possible. Marlene and her mother clinched tightly to his arms as he picked up speed. As he neared yet another clan territory, the vast lands of the Seven Hells, he slowed, knowing he would have to battle yet again. However, as he approached, he noticed that it was eerily quiet. Out of the immense clan, not even one hell could be found in plain sight. Not even the glowing red eyes of any demon, for that matter, could be seen. The lands were completely evacuated.
How strange,
Sparda thought. As he passed, then he remembered Mundus' plans for one final assault on the human world.
He must have mobilized them already.
As he passed the lands of the Hells, Sparda came upon a new territory, one not yet conquered by Mundus. As he entered the territory, he did not know what to expect, but as he continued to fly, he noticed hundreds of dead demons everywhere. There was a mix of all kinds of demons, some who actually opposed Mundus during the Battle of Argasax, and others who chose not to fight. Some demons were clearly brutalized to death, others killed with the swiftness of an assassin.
Who could have done this?
Thought Sparda.
Well, look who it is.
The voice startled Sparda, and he stopped immediately and looked around but could not see a face.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not see me? Let me help you.
Suddenly, 3 demons appeared before Sparda, with a demon similar to Sparda at the head.
Azrael,
Sparda said, beginning to slowly back away at a safer distance for Marlene and her mother. 2 other demons stood behind Azrael, one appearing animalistic and hairy, the other very brutal and visceral looking, wrapped in chains.
Yes. Had you forgotten me?
you did all this?
Sparda asked.
Well, I cannot take all the credit for that. My comrades here may have had a hand in it.
Azrael looked back at the other 2 demons and smiled, and they smiled back. Sparda glanced back down at the dead demons.
Mundus told you to conquer these lands, not kill the demons he had not yet influenced.
And what do you care? You don't exactly seem to be following Mundus' orders either,
Azrael said, gesturing at the humans in Sparda's arms.
Mundus told me to conquer these lands. He did not tell me how I should do it. Besides, I do whatever I want to do. Do you see those demons down there? That was fun. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you found your calling. Tell me how it all works out.
Sparda prepared to fly away, but was halted by Azrael.
So where are you going with those humans anyway?
That's none of your concern.
Oh, but it is. Because unless you tell me what you are doing, I'm going to have to kill them. This is Mundus' land. We must obey his wishes.
Azrael said sarcastically. His 2 comrades smiled at the sound of that and became restless.
Look, Azrael, this does not concern you. Now get out of my way or there will be consequences.
Sparda started to become anxious. He knew that each passing second was now precious, that Mundus would soon catch wind of his actions, and when that happened, he would be in a very critical predicament.
Consequences? I'm sorry, but I thought I just heard you say there would be consequences.
I don't have time for games, Azrael.
Sparda was not new to Azrael's tactics. He knew Azrael well. He knew that he loved to taunt and provoke his opponents and get under their skin. Sparda also knew that Azrael would love nothing more than a fight.
I do not have time for this.
Sparda kept thinking.
I will not fight you, Azrael.
Oh, you will fight me.
Sparda looked over the situation. Azrael was an incredibly powerful demon. Coming from the same clan as Sparda, he shared a lot of the same abilities, plus his own unique talents. He wielded a deadly scythe bearing his own name that could transform just like Sparda's sword. He had a pair of monstrous black angelic wings, under which were 2 pairs of razor-sharp bat wings. And finally, he had incredible ram-like horns that he was not afraid to use. And Azrael was just the tip of the iceberg. His 2 comrades, though not as powerful as Azrael, were just as fierce, one able to outsmart most opponents with vicious deadliness, and the other able to best most demons in sheer physical prowess. Even though Sparda was only outnumbered 3-1, the skill and abilities of these 3 demons were much greater than the hordes of lesser demons. The entire situation did not bode well for Sparda.
Okay, Azrael, I will give you your fight, but there is something I must do first.
Sparda said, looking down at Marlene and her mother.
I will give you your fight after I do what I have to do.
All right then. That's more like it. Proceed.
Azrael said, bowing in a mocking way. Sparda began to fly past Azrael, and his gaze came upon his 2 comrades.
Wretched scum,
he thought.
There's just one thing,
Azrael said. Sparda did not even have time to react. Azrael was much faster than most demons. Before Sparda could avoid him, Azrael had snatched Marlene's mother from Sparda's grasp.
Mommy!
Screamed Marlene.
What are you doing, Azrael?
Sparda said, becoming slightly nervous.
Well,
Suddenly Azrael pushed the mother forward and she began to fall as Sparda went to catch her. Azrael swung his enormous scythe through her back, killing her instantly.
Mommy, no!
Marlene cried. Azrael held the mother up with his scythe, then kicked her off, her lifeless body plummeting down with the dead demon corpses.
you will fight me now.
Sparda looked into the eyes of Azrael in a rage. He looked back down at Marlene, who was crying her eyes out once again, and it angered him beyond belief.
You have taken this too far, Azrael.
Sparda then placed Marlene on a hanging-off chute and looked into her eyes.
Do not cry. This will be over soon.
Sparda then took out the little red ball which he had kept clamped to his hip and placed it in her hands.
You hold on to this for me, all right? I will come back for it.
Sparda turned back and flew towards Azrael slowly and took out his sword. He came 5 feet away from him and stopped.
Now we fight.
That's more like it.
Azrael said, turning his scythe into a gigantic halberd. Suddenly his 2 comrades came to his side to join him. Azrael shot them an angry stare.
No, you two stay back. This is my fight. Besides, I want you to see the great swordsman Sparda fall. You two shall be my witnesses.
But sir,
No, you will watch this.
His 2 comrades then fell back, following their leader's orders. Sparda did not say a word, but stood ready. Azrael turned back to him with a smile, and his weapon became a long sword.
I've been waiting for this.
It was at this point Sparda's thoughts turned to his 2 former apprentices, Baal and Modius. These twin brothers had been trained by Sparda in the ways of combat beginning shortly after the battle against Argosax. This training lasted for a number of years before the opening of the portal. Both were skilled warriors.
If only they were here now to take care of those scum,
he thought, fearing for the safety of Marlene. But he had not seen them since just before his first visit to the human realm. Neither of them was aware of the actions that he committed in the last few hours, nor would they understand why.
Perhaps it's better that they were not here. I doubt that they would understand why I am taking her home.
Then, without warning, Azrael charged towards Sparda, and Sparda charged toward Azrael. They both let out a battle cry before they collided. The collision created a giant ripple effect that caused hurricane-like winds to flow through the lands for a short period.
Tell me, Sparda, how does it feel knowing that you will soon meet your end?
You tell me, Azrael. Yeah!
Their weapons were moving with light speed, as each parried the other's advances away perfectly. They deflected each other back with great force, each using their wings to stop their momentum in midair. Azrael then snapped his huge black wings around his body and charged at Sparda. Sparda snapped his wings out to brace himself for the impact. When he drew close enough, Azrael opened up his wings, throwing all kinds of murky debris at Sparda, and held out his weapon, now in scythe form. Sparda turned his sword into a spear and spun it around vertically, blocking all the debris. The two warriors collided again, trading blows, going back and forth at an incredible rate. Azrael then threw a diversionary kick at Sparda's abdomen, which was blocked, but as Sparda blocked the kick, Azrael came in headfirst, ramming his rigid horns against Sparda's head. The blow stunned him for a bit as he fell back.
Weakling! You never could face a challenge when the pressure was on.
Azrael taunted as he went in for another attack. Both their weapons converged in sword form, and it was now a test of strength. Azrael grinned as he looked into Sparda's eyes.
I never could follow you.
They pushed each other back once again, neither one able to best the other.
What are you talking about?
Sparda voiced.
You and your rebellious army. What a laughingstock. You know, I watched you from a distance as you trained, gathered your strength, and collected your followers.
As he spoke, the battle continued. Still, neither one was gaining much ground.
But I saw what you could do. You are nothing. Thus, I could never follow you. I chose not to join your so-called army, which was doomed to fail from the start. It was only because of Mundus that Argosax did not have your head. He saved your entire cause.
You are truly deluded.
You do not deserve what you have. With all that power, you do nothing. You are a disgrace.
Azrael spread his wings out once more, revealing his deadly sharp bat wings.
All that is yours is rightfully mine. And mine it will be.
Suddenly they were fighting even faster than before, and the battle became more intense. As Sparda transformed his sword into a spear, Azrael transformed his scythe into a halberd. As Sparda changed his spear into a sword, Azrael changed his halberd into a sword. The two went back and forth without stopping, matching each other's defense. Sparda then began to think about the gravity of the challenge that lay ahead of him after Azrael. His mind was suddenly not focused on the fight in front of him. The thought allowed for just the opening Azrael had been waiting for. He kicked Sparda hard in the abdomen and slashed him across the chest with his side. The wound healed almost instantly, but Sparda was slightly taken aback.
Is this all the mighty Sparda has to offer? This will be your burial ground, weakling.
As Azrael came down for a fatal attack, Sparda remembered Marlene and remembered that he could not leave her here alone. Just as the blade was about to penetrate his chest, Sparda blocked it with his sword.
No, Azrael. I have much more to offer.
Suddenly, Sparda bolted at Azrael and rammed the hilt of his sword into his chest. Azrael didn't even have a chance to think about another attack before Sparda was slicing him all over. He then kicked him backward and gave Azrael a taunt of his own.
Come on, I know the great Azrael can do better than that.
The multiple lacerations on Azrael's body healed, and he gritted his teeth in anger.
You!
Azrael charged with scythe held high, but was suddenly caught off guard as Sparda teleported behind him and slashed again. Azrael turned around to face Sparda, but he had teleported once more, this time above him, and kicked him in the face. Azrael began to breathe deeply as he grew angry.
What's the matter, Azrael? I thought you were better than me.
I hate you. You are nothing.
Azrael charged once more.
Yeah.
But this time, Sparda deflected his weapon out of his hand. Now weaponless, a flurry of close-range attacks befell him, as Sparda punched and kicked him quickly and precisely. Sparda began to punch Azrael in his chest and face, with light speed, and with a final overhand haymaker, sent Azrael flying backwards. And as he flew backward, Sparda charged once more with his right hand held back, clinched in a fist. He then gave Azrael a devastating spinning uppercut, sending him further upward. And as he went up, Sparda rose above him and extended his right leg, executing a series of somersaults, blasting Azrael in the chest with a sharp kick. And for one final attack, Sparda charged up his right fist and shot out a flaming red projectile that sent Azrael collapsing to the ground. In immense pain, Azrael's wounds began healing very slowly this time, but the pain he felt inside was even greater. He looked up at Sparda with disgust, and Sparda exchanged a similar look back to him. He knew he was defeated, and he knew there was now nothing he could do about it. Sparda waited for Azrael to regain his composure and attack him, but suddenly realized that Azrael had accepted his defeat. This brought a sudden calm over Sparda, as he knew that it would take much more effort to actually kill him, and he could not risk such a battle with Marlene. He then flew back over to Marlene and picked her up in one arm.
I'm going to take you home now,
he said, as his gaze remained on Azrael. Sparda began to fly away as one of Azrael's comrades prepared to go after him. But before they could take off, they were halted by Azrael's voice.
No, let him go.
But sir, we can still catch him. Surely he could not defeat us all.
But Azrael now knew better. He had just experienced something in Sparda he had never seen, and he was ashamed to admit that it terrified him. He knew that Sparda would probably be able to defeat them all, and it drove him mad.
No, let him go. Mundus will reap what he has sown. Let him deal with him.
Azrael stared at Sparda until he disappeared, and one thought ran through his mind.
This is not over, Sparda. This is not over.
Chapter 3. Judgment.
Loyal Alester, it has begun. Just as I foresaw, he has defied me. He comes to us this very moment. He believes he can save them, but he will not.
The mood in hell had swung. An unconscious uprising had begun, and the underworld grew agitated. Alastor knelt down before Mundus, his head bowed, honoring his master.
You shall kill him. I have other matters to attend to. My army has been fully mobilized. The human realm sits on the brink of my dominion. Do not fail me.
Mundus disappeared and his voice left a faded echo.
Yes, Master. I shall do as you wish.
Alastor unclamped his broad sword from his back and began walking away from the throne in the direction of Sparda. His judgment was nigh. Sparda did not hesitate to pick up speed as he drew nearer to the gate. He periodically looked down at Marlene to make sure she was still all right. The vast lands of hell were now completely barren. No demon could be spotted anywhere, even in the most diverse quarters.
Has he already begun the invasion? No, that's not possible. He would not invade the humans without me at the forefront unless...
Sparda stopped mid-flight.
Unless he knows. But that can't be. Surely I've not wasted that much time.
Sparda spread his wings and began flying again. He slowed as he neared the white pathway that led to the portal. He landed and began walking, paying close attention to his surroundings.
It's far too quiet.
Two crackling sounds caught his attention, and a figure appeared from the shadows. It was Alastor, standing with sword ready. Sparda gently moved Marlene behind him as he drew his sword. All of hell was silent. Only the gusting winds from the portal could be heard. Both Sparda and Alastor exchanged deadly glances, each not moving a muscle. Sparda knew the time for banter was over. There was now only time for action without hesitation.
Get out of my way, Alastor.
Alastor's words came out raspy yet clear.
I'm afraid I can't do that. I will not hesitate to kill you, if I must. So it seems. Lord Mundus is very anxious about having you dead. He sent me here to kill you. Well then I guess there is no choice to be made. Let's get this over with. However, I do not do anything unless I know why I am doing it. But I can see why Mundus would be worried.
Alastor motioned towards Marlene, hiding behind Sparda's leg.
Alas, I have no quarrels with you, brother. Mundus has grown far too comfortable on his throne. I no longer care to do his bidding, for I see it will only contribute to his personal gain. I am a subordinate, but I am not a slave. I never intended to serve under another tyrant.
Sparda was shocked. He always knew there were other demons who felt the same way as he when it came to Mundus, but never had anyone openly talked about it. Aside from poor Ifrit, of course.
So your eyes are open as well? Yes, they are. Though I do not know why you have done what you have. Why it seems you have sided with the humans. It only further perplexes me when I try to contemplate your reasoning. However, I do trust your judgment, and I always have, since you recruited me into your army. Your words hold more power than those of Mundus, General.
Sparda was beyond pleased with this.
How many others feel the same way?
He wondered.
Shall you let me pass, then? No, I cannot.
Sparda held his sword ready, preparing for Alastor to attack, but to his surprise, he did not.
You cannot get back through the gate that way. Mundus has stationed nearly half his army at the portal, waiting for you. Then they shall suffer the same fate as those who have already crossed my path. No, it would not be wise. You don't understand. That is the only way out. I have to go. But there is another way. One that will afford us less risk in its passage. There is another portal. Yes, there is. Follow me.
Alastor snapped his sharp wings outward and burst into the air. Sparda waited for a few seconds and contemplated.
The portal is right there. So close. How do I know I can trust him? But Marlene, do I risk such an open battle with her at my side? No, I cannot risk it. I have no other choice.
Sparda picked Marlene up and looked her in the eyes. He flew off in the direction of Alastor, hoping that he spoke the truth. Alastor was able to fly much faster than Sparda, using the power of electricity at his disposal. Sparda struggled to keep up, trying to keep Marlene safe at the same time. Sparda recognized that they were entering the rocky cliffs of Hell, nearing his land of origin, the lands to which he promised to himself and Beowulf years ago that he would never return. As they flew over the land, Alastor halted.
The portal is there. Here, in the wastelands, but I do not see it.
Alastor flew downward, leading Sparda directly to the portal.
You see, it is here. But how? Mundus did not get the humans to erect the tower over here. That is meaningless. Since the opening of the main portal, demonic activity has increased at an accelerated rate throughout the human world. Our kind has had much more influence than you thought. This is just one of many portals that opened after Mundus joined the two realms.
Sparda looked through the circular portal and saw a plot of land, an island, through its murky ripples.
I see. Alright, I must act quickly. I have to get her back to her world.
Sparda paused for 1 second before he stepped through the portal. Alastor followed closely behind. As he entered the human world once more, the wind chilled Sparda's face. He spotted a grassy area and contemplated putting Marlene there. His thoughts then drew to Alastor.
Come with me. We can face Mundus together. I'm sorry, but I cannot. I do not know why you want to abandon your homeland, but I am certain it is for a sound reason. I am a devil. My place is in hell, and it will remain so. But surely Mundus will make you pay for your transgression. I believe he will not. He has no knowledge of my actions. You will have nothing to worry about.
Sparda saw confidence radiating from Alastor and admired his courage.
Thank you, Alastor. This will not be forgotten.
Sparda flew down to solid earth and placed Marlene on the ground. He glanced back up at Alastor, who looked back at him. Then suddenly, Sparda's eyes widened in terror as he saw the 3 triangular red eyes of the Dark Lord appear behind Alastor. He attempted to warn him, but he was too late.
Alastor, watch out!
Alastor turned around and saw the 3 eyes of Mundus, charging up with demonic energy. He pulled his sword from his back and readied himself for attack. The entire scene moved in slow motion. Before Alastor could effectively defend himself, Mundus struck with monstrous power, sending a great beam of white and red light through him, blasting a gigantic hole in the middle of his body. He was dead almost instantly. As he fell from the sky, his sword released from his hand, and his body began to glow and break apart, till all that was left was his glowing white soul floating in the air. Suddenly, Alastor's soul unwillingly entered his sword, as it planted itself in the ground near Sparda and vibrated with electric energy. Until it fell silent. His own sword had now become his permanent prison, a punishment from the Dark Lord himself.
Mundus.
Sparda spoke in a grunt. Sparda gnawed his sharp teeth and grew angrier with each moment that passed.
You are not even worth my
As Munda's three eyes faded away, the portal over the island began to shake. Within seconds, the shaking stopped, and the hissing portal became quiet. Then, out of the portal, exploded a plethora of all kinds of demons, some that even Sparda had never seen before. Sloths, gluttonies, greeds, wraths, prides, vanguards, abyss, soul eaters, and even what remained of the Frost clan. They all charged, pouring out of the portal like a never-ending waterfall. Sparda held his sword at his side and looked at Marlene.
Go!
She did not move, but instead latched herself back to his leg.
No, I won't leave you.
She screamed in her high-pitched voice. Sparda pushed her away, almost violently.
Go! Now!
The tears welled up in her eyes and she ran away, never looking back as she cried. Sparda turned back to the legions of demons heading his way. He felt remorse for Alastair, who had fallen because he shared his views of Mundus. He glared over at Alastair's sword, and it seemed to speak to him. Then, without giving it a thought, he took it up, and electricity surged through his body. The blade felt hot in his hand, and he could feel the rage of Alastair combine with his own. A smile ran across his face, and he leapt into the air and flew directly towards the legion of demons. Sparda was now on a collision course with almost half of Mundus's army, and with Alastair dead, he now had no one except the sword he left behind. He would face Hell's army alone. Chapter 4. Rebellion. Sparda was now on a collision course with almost half of Hell. Dual-wielding his sword and the sword of Alastair, Sparda was imbued with more rage than ever before. Electricity covered his entire body, feeding off his anger. As he approached the legions, he readied Alastair's sword and threw it like a boomerang, sending electric voltage throughout the masses. As the sword found its way back to his hand, he held it backwards and made a fierce overhand swing, crushing a wave of hells. The portal shook violently as the legions struggled to squeeze their way through hundreds at a time. It did not take long for the thousands of demons to surround him, but Sparda did not stand and wait for their advances. He charged forward, slicing 20 abysses in half. Demons continued to flow out of the portal, and some had made it past Sparda and landed on the island.
I cannot let any of them stay here. They all must be destroyed. Die!
Sparda made an uppercut swing with his sword, causing a sharp ripple to tear through one demon after the other. He held out Alastair and his sword at the same time and charged once more, trying to get to the portal entrance. But the flow of demons was too strong, their sheer numbers too great. Every time Sparda slaughtered one wave, another followed. Once the first line of prides and lust were destroyed, a line of gluttonies and envies followed suit. However, Sparda was steadfast in his mission and did not waver under the pressure. Hell vanguards surrounded him on all sides, but were dealt with before they could vanish. Wraths, carrying large bombs on their backs, hurled themselves at Sparda, exploding on contact. But Sparda was unscathed. Suddenly the legions began working together in their efforts. Sloths, now based in sand because of their entry into the human world, teleported along with the vanguards. Sparda was able to dodge the vanguards, but the sloths were able to locate him through teleportation and came down with their scythes. Sparda easily blocked the attacks with both swords and used them as scissors to decapitate the sloths, turning them into unformed sand that dissipated in the wind. Vanguards then began teleporting greeds to the island so they could release more hells from their black coffins. more demons who had found their place on solid earth shot their projectiles at Sparda from below. Alastor electrified itself as a warning, and Sparda turned to defend himself, but was caught in mid-air by a Soul Eater, which sprung further into the sky and prepared to drain Sparda of his demonic energy. However, the Soul Eater quickly exploded as Sparda's power and rage were simply too much to contain. Multiple other Soul Eaters attempted to attack, while Sparda's back was turned, but Alastor began sending bolts out at them on its own. Flying down just above the ground, Sparda deflected the projectiles of abysses and frosts. Then he heard the voice of Alastor in his head, and he could feel his power throughout his body. Suddenly, Sparda sheathed his sword on his back, and Alastor at his hip. His body was covered with blue electricity as his power grew. He spread his wings and generated more power, sending bolts of electricity down at the hapless demons. He switched his attacks back and forth, sending bolts from his right hand, then his left hand, one after the other. The grounded demons burst into flames and disintegrated completely upon impact. Alastor electrified again to warn Sparda, and he turned around to send more bolts of electricity through the crowds of demons hovering in the sky. As the masses continued to flow through the portal, they were turned to ashes by Sparda's electrified attacks. With each successive hit, the bolts of lightning grew in power, destroying 10 to 20 demons at a time. The entire surface around the portal lit up in a bright blue haze as the deadly fireworks continued. The demons who dared to even look toward the blasts were blinded, and their internal organs caught fire by the mere sight of it. Very shortly, the numberless legions stopped coming, and Sparda had destroyed nearly 300,000 demons. The tens of thousands more who remained fled back through the portal. The others attempted to continue the assault. Sparda clamped Alastor over his own sword, combining both their powers into one blade. Sparda's raging red flames joined with Alastor's blazing electricity. The demons had been no match for Sparda to begin with, but were now at a serious disadvantage. Sparda's attacks were now almost doubled in power, as he ripped through the remaining legions with ease. Trails of flames and lightning followed Sparda as he attacked. Bright explosions showed brightly as Sparda pounded demons left and right. He was moving with incredible speed and swiftness and seemed to teleport constantly, leaving dark after images of himself in his midst. He struck like a lightning bolt, zigzagging and tearing through countless demons. The battle did not last long, and Sparda hovered in the sky as the ashes of dead demons rained down upon his horned head. Loud screams and growls had filled the night air, but now it was completely silent, and the midnight moon shone brightly in the sky. Sparda took deep breaths as he tried to regain his train of thought.
Marlene, she's safe now.
He knew he had to re-enter Hell. He knew he had to face Mundus and stop him from launching his invasion. Sparda flew back towards the portal, but just before he entered, a voice spoke to him in his mind.
No, leave me here.
Sparda looked around, trying to find who was speaking to him.
Who's there? It is me, Alastor. Alastor, but... Leave me here. Do not take me back. But I thought your place was in hell, that you could never abandon your homeland. Even when I'm free, I am a prisoner. I'd rather be a prisoner and have more freedom. Mundus may have taken my life, but he has not taken
Sparda was at a loss for words, and he felt the pit of his stomach drop. But he would act in accordance with Alastair's will, although it pained him.
As you wish.
Sparda then unclamped Alastair from his sword and held it up. It began to pulsate with electricity, and Sparda threw it with incredible force towards the island, plunging it in the ground.
Goodbye, Alastair.
Sparda lifted his head and turned back toward the portal. His only goal now was to find Mundus and kill him. He blasted through the portal back to hell. Chapter 5. Alone. The sky was illuminated in a bright red mist. The clouds were dark and thunderous bangs exploded outward. Not because of a storm, but because of hell. Something was occurring in the demon world that was rocking the foundation of both worlds. Members of the Resistance stepped out from their underground burrow and cast their gazes upon the portal. Brutal winds surged out of the portal and began ripping at the ground below. The humans struggled to maintain their balance.
What is it?
Brutus spoke.
Anna? What is it? Do you think they're coming again to invade us?
Anna was calm and clenched onto the charm around her neck.
No.
Then what is it? It feels as if the very earth is shaking in fear.
Anna did not know exactly what it was, but she had a feeling, a very strong feeling, that only a woman's intuition would yield.
He fights for us.
Hell was screaming. Sparda could feel Mundus, his power, his influence in every crevice, in every corner. He looked down at his homeland, the wastelands. He remembered his experiences there and the resentment he developed for it. Those memories were so fresh it seemed like yesterday. Had it really been that long ago, since his birth, since he left his homeland, since he made a name for himself as a true warrior? Nostalgia continued to hit Sparda. Had it been that long ago that he reared an entire army to take down Argosax? Since he sided with Mundus and followed him so blindly? The memories enraged Sparda.
How could I have been so foolish?
At that moment, he felt as if his entire life was a lie, that someone had played a cruel trick upon him and used him like a puppet. They pulled his strings and filled his mind with falsehoods, skewing his perspective and addling his thoughts. But that had come to an end. Very early in Sparda's life, he knew he was destined for something greater, something beyond the darkness, something above the inequities and the tyranny of a false god, something much greater than his existence. For a long while he thought he had found his calling as general to Hell's army, but now he realized that it was all an illusion. He had not been following his heart, but rather bending to the machinations of Lord Mundus. That thought burned within him and formed a scowl upon his face. But everything had changed now. He had turned his back on his own kind and killed his brethren, not for himself, not for Mundus, but for the humans. An act of defiance indeed. The very thought of his kind made him squeamish. He thought of the 7 hells and the havoc they'd rained upon the human world. It was not until this point that their names held weight to Sparda. Sloth, gluttony, greed, envy, lust, wrath, and pride. With Sparda developing human emotions and learning the difference between good and evil, he now knew that their names were not simply handed down to them. They were not simply monikers that could be discarded or exchanged for new aliases. They had meaning, and their meaning was the very thing Sparda sought to destroy. These were the sins that allowed the culmination of events that occurred in the human world up to this point. Because the humans had greed, they desired power and envied demons. Thus they erected a tower of darkness in their plight. in order to obtain this power and unleash their wrath. Yes, the names of the hells had meaning indeed.
What was I thinking? How could I have stood side by side with them, fought with them?
But he realized that it was because he was not thinking that allowed him to prey upon the innocent. He was simply going through the motions, reacting instead of acting. He knew what he had to do.
I will rip their names from them as I tear them asunder.
As Sparda floated through the portal into hell, he was confronted once more by a wave of demons. A smaller one this time, only 20,000 strong, consisting of numerous soul-eaters, arachni, and blood goyles. Although these enemies were relatively weak when attacking alone, collectively their strength was legion. Soul-eaters, spiritual remnants of the rage of murdered demons, swarmed like locusts, dizzyingly encircling Sparda. The blood goyles did the same, weaving back and forth, creating a mesh of red and cobalt blue colors. Sparda could not see around him, and was suddenly caught off guard by the sticky web spindles of several arachni. His arms were bound at his sides, and their webbing squeezed tightly around his body, suffocating his armored shell. The arachni pulled their webbing taut, stretched beyond the breaking point, and they used Sparda to catapult their large bodies in his direction. However, as the arachni, with spine-laden claws, made headway, Sparda lashed out with his arms and broke free of the deadly cocoon, sending out an energy wave that knocked back all the surrounding demons.
You all shall die.
Grasping his sword with both hands, Sparda charged toward one of the masses, ripping through them like a hot knife through butter. Soul-eaters were usually very conniving demons, entering an untouchable state, waiting for their prey to turn their back before attacking. But in the presence of Sparda, their technique was meaningless. He drew them out of their hiding with his sheer will and sent their screaming souls to the abyss. Blood goyles, able to withstand most sword attacks, hovered tauntingly like vultures. They swooped down in a perfect V formation as they screeched. Sparda slashed at them, but it only split the goyles into two smaller ones. As he slashed at the others, they did the same.
Your pathetic tricks are useless.
Sparda stowed his sword on his back, and red energy began to gather around his fist. One goyle attempted an attack, but Sparda grabbed it around the throat, encircling its neck with his fingers, and squeezed. It squirmed and squealed as Sparda held it steady, and its fluid neck began to collapse. With little effort, Sparda ripped its head off with his bare hands, turning its body into stony ashes. As the other goyles attacked, Sparda used his energy-imbued fist and smashed them into ashes one after the other. As his clawed knuckles met blood-filled beaks, they turned to stone and imploded, spraying blood and rock shards everywhere. The arachni suffered an equally gruesome fate. Sparda severed most of their legs, and they fell helplessly to the ground. Deeming them unworthy to taste his blade, he took up a clawed leg and ran it through each of the fallen arachni, crushing their vital organs as they screamed in agony. The rest he chose to deal with from afar, blasting them with his flaming red projectiles. What few demons remained were badly injured, and would die a slow, painful death in Sparda's stead. Suddenly, Sparda caught a glimpse of a blue energy sword coming in fast out of the corner of his left eye. He was able to steer clear of the first swing, but was knocked backwards into a decrepit chasm by the second. Regaining his composure, he was able to look up and see his attacker. It was the Fallen, dozens of them. Having fallen from grace for lying and deceiving its victims, the Fallen were now only high-ranking amongst themselves. They had no honor, and thus were not respected among elite demons. However, Although they were no longer respected, they still maintained their deadly demonic power. Their beautiful white wings could close and form an invincible shield, concealing their only weakness. They hovered with their energy swords, ready for Sparda.
I do not know why you have chosen to show yourselves here, but I assure you that you will regret it.
But suddenly, the burrows within the chasm began to glow and outflowed hundreds of slimy, worm-like demons. They were gigapedes, giant creatures with 1,000,000 legs, able to move through a rift in the time-space fabric. They relentlessly strike down their foes with high-voltage attacks. Within seconds, Sparda was in a pool of gigapedes that floated around aimlessly in the chasm, their slimy appendages rubbing against his body.
Wretched beasts!
One quick flash of his sword yielded a terrible screech from one of the gigapedes. Suddenly, all the gigapedes began moving rapidly, flowing in and out of the surrounding burrows. With the fallen hovering above him and gigapedes swirling around him, Sparda was at a disadvantage. However, this would merely test his might and only strengthen his will. The lower halves of the gigapedes' bodies began to illuminate with vibrant purple orbs, and they all shot out at once, finding their way towards Sparda. But Sparda planted his feet in the ground as he sheathed his sword and stood in a guarding stance. As each orb came down upon Sparda, he guarded them in succession, withstanding the damage they would have done, and converting their energy to his own. Thousands of orbs littered the sky and acted as homing devices as they swooped down to hit their target. Sparda guarded each one with perfect timing, building up his energy to near its breaking point. Then, the gigapedes dove down and rushed Sparda simultaneously. But just before they could land an attack, Sparda jumped mere inches from the ground and released all of his built-up energy, sending his body gliding forcibly through the air, making dust and particles of the incoming demons. Bits of tentacles and slimy fluids filled the atmosphere as Sparda returned his gaze upon the fallen. He rebounded off a gigapede's carcass and launched himself skyward. Sparda eluded their swinging energy blades and began using them to catch his footing, jumping from one fallen to another. As he landed on the final fallen, he brought his legs down hard, driving his hooves into its shoulders, crippling it as it crashed upon the ground. Its wings were tattered, and it could not move. Sparda made the killing blow using its own energy sword to pierce it through the chest. The rest of the fallen descended upon Sparda with their wings enclosing their bodies. Sparda lunged to attack them, but was knocked backwards due to their invincible shields.
Indestructible shields. We'll see.
Sparda brandished his sword in a defensive stance. The fallen recoiled in fear and wonder. Then their vision spilled cleanly as their heads cleaved in twain. Sparda had obliterated their shields. Their detached feathers cascaded upon the ground as their bisected corpses split apart and spayed a bloody mist upon the battlefield. They had not even seen Sparda move. The silence of the battlefield was broken by the beating of demonic wings above his head. Apparently, one of the fallen had survived the slaughter. Sparda tilted his head upwards to gaze at the lowly fallen. He turned upon his heels and strode away and spoke to the wind.
Only a fool does not know when he is dead.
As the lonely fallen began to slowly slide apart in two pieces, drifting upon the wind, Sparda lifted his body into the air and prepared to bolt towards Lord Mundus for a final showdown. But something was not right, and Sparda paused. He could feel something, but he did not know what. Then his nerves flared and his senses heightened. He could feel them, thousands of them, No, more. Millions. Ominous rumblings arose in the distance over the horizon. Suddenly, a vast and seemingly endless horde of demons came into view, charging towards Sparda.
There are millions of them. But how? The army I reared barely reached over 600,000.
Millions charged from the left, millions from the right, and an uncountable number followed behind. Then it dawned upon Sparda. During his many long stints in the human world, death had not stopped. Demons were still born. Hell's army had increased exponentially. They flowed like a dark cloud as they marched forward. Deadly sickles and scythes reflected light off the blackness of Hell's walls. Blazing red eyes and flaming energy pulsated from within the masses. They roared and growled mightily as their screams permeated through the air. Sparda could feel the very vibrations of their approach like dull footsteps echoing through an empty hallway. His eyes widened at the very sight of it. But the shock was short-lived, as it was replaced by his unshakable resolve. A smile ran across his face as he unsheathed his sword. This was it, the true test of his will. This battle would resonate throughout Hell's quarters.
Don't get so cocky.
Suddenly Sparda enveloped himself with a vibrantly orange, protective spherical orb. Then, telepathically, Sparda produced fiery red phantom swords resembling his own, that rotated around the orb with a deadly quickness. The roar of the innumerable amount of demons preceded them as they approached like a gigantic tidal wave, preparing to engulf the land. As they drew near, Sparda ascended further into the sky and stopped. He reared back on his haunches, then dove downward directly into the center of the surge. As he made contact, his spinning blades mowed down limitless hordes like a shredder. He was able to shoot the phantom blades outward, making way for him to gain his footing within the swarm. Immediately, he was attacked on all sides by hells, goyles, abyss and the like, but his protective shield was impervious to their advances. He suddenly created another row of phantom swords around the orb, slicing the hells and goyles in half, causing the abyss to tremble and cringe as they were hit repeatedly. Wave after wave was completely decimated, leaving large holes and gaps within the flowing legions. Sparda was now using his sword in conjunction with his phantom swords and protective shield in a devastating combination of never-ending attacks. His enemies literally hovered in mid-air as they were hit repeatedly by his spinning blades. Sparda swerved back and forth, outlining a pathway through the crowds of demons. No demon among the masses was fast enough or strong enough to challenge Sparda. He laid waste to every demon in his path, with barely a flick of his wrist. It was one demon versus many, and ironically, they were at the receiving end of the massacre. As he continued to mow down wave after wave of demons, he chose to single out some from the crowd, launching them into the air and hitting them with a series of furious slashes, mincing them into small bits. Then suddenly, Sparda was caught off guard from behind by a slimy demon, which latched itself to his protective orb and pushed him downward. The masses hurried in to capitalize, attacking Sparda at the same time as they jumped into the growing pile that surrounded him. A gargantuan pile of demons then crowded the center of combat, and Sparda appeared to have been devoured. But without warning, bright streaks of light shot out from the pile, and demon after demon was suddenly thrust backward violently, as forceful waves of energy pulsated outward from Sparda's orb.
You're going down.
Sparda was suddenly nowhere to be seen. Then, out of nowhere, his orb and spinning blades came crashing down upon the battlefield, atop a slew of demons, killing them all in an instant. Sparda teleported again and came crashing down once more from above. Over and over he teleported and attacked from the air, bringing his sword down hard. Small explosions littered the battlefield as he stuck. Demons began disappearing in a cloud of their own dust and blood, dozens to hundreds at a time.
Crash, be gone! Be gone! Crash! Yeah!
They were completely helpless and could only stand guard before they met their fate. Sparda attacked with a deadly precision and moved throughout the legions like a renegade. The entire scene was preposterous. One demon was dismembering and destroying thousands upon thousands of demons within minutes. His phantom swords had reached beyond close-range ability and stretched far across the battlefield, sending red flames everywhere. It looked as if bombs were exploding each time he touched the ground. So ironic. He had rained down hellfire and brimstone, unleashing hell upon a legion of demons, leaving none alive. The battleground lay quiet as he stood in the murky cloud of blood and demon corpses. There was no one left to fight, no demons to expunge, no scythes to rend, no challenge to face. Sparda took deep breaths as he powered down his shield and phantom blades. Although he had just wiped out millions of demons with ease, he felt slightly more fatigued than usual. Had the battle taken its toll on him? He didn't have time to think. His adrenaline was still pumping, and the tips of his clawed fingers still tingled with anticipation.
Mundus!
Then out of nowhere, an incredible beam of light shot at Sparda. He dodged with a cartwheel and regained his balance. He looked up to see a disgusting blob slowly making its way towards him. Sparda could hear Mundus's voice in his head.
You have not defeated my army yet. You may have overcome the darkness, but you will not overcome this nightmare. I will bury your useless corpse below my throne when he is through with you.
The blob continued forward, slowly approaching Sparda, and just behind it he could see Mundus's two most faithful servants making headway, Phantom and Griffin. He held up his sword with one hand, pointing it directly at them.
This may be fun.
Chapter 6. Face to Face. Sparda had destroyed over 6 million demons. He was tired, but his mental endurance outweighed his physical fatigue. His body, able to regenerate from damage, ached and begged for rest, but his mind said no, not yet. Now he stood face to face with 2 generals and an obscure blob of a demon. However, Sparda knew that they were not the only ones left. He was certain that Mundus had many more legions of demons prepared for him. His extremities were numb, but he could still feel his blood surging through his veins. He would not quit. He would not stop. Now was not the time for rest. This was a time for rebellion. The 3 demons stood before him, poised and menacing.
We will rip you limb from limb until you beg for forgiveness.
Phantom incurred arrogantly. Although he had been relatively quiet in his dealings since Mundus took the throne of Hell, Phantom was still a very powerful and high-ranking demon in the Dark Army. Phantom resembled a spider, but his body was as gargantuan as an elephant's, and his shell harder than stone. He bore a scorpion-like stinger that he used to attack his prey. His blood, when shed, was made of scorching lava, reminiscent of the flaming rivers of hell. As he walked, he left a trail of fire behind.
Or better yet, how about we peel the flesh from his bones?
Griffin chimed in.
Bah, he's too puny for a routine fleshing. How about we leave it up to this thing?
Phantom said, motioning toward the dark blob, aptly dubbed Nightmare. Nightmare was a newly created demon, or rather a biochemical weapon, created by the Dark Lord Mundus. It truly had no mind of its own, and being the first of its kind, its abilities were unknown to Sparda, as well as most other demons. However, stories were told throughout Hell recently of a demon that could manifest the very thoughts of its opponents. It could take a small inkling of an idea or memory and make it reality, at least in the minds of its victims. How it conducted this particular maneuver was still unknown.
Are you two going to keep talking, or are we going to fight?
Sparda said, becoming agitated with the delay. Griffin reared back and shot out red electric waves as Phantom gathered a ball of molting lava in his mouth and blasted it towards Sparda. As the waves of energy made contact with Sparda, they dissipated like evaporating water, leaving Sparda unscathed.
That all you got?
Phantom and Griffin snarled and barked at Sparda, attempting to hide their underlying fear of his power. Suddenly, Nightmare shot out beams of energy in rapid succession, one after the other. Sparda deflected most of the beams and charged toward the blob. He made a vertical slice down the middle of the demon, but it did no damage, as it was more machine than living organism, consisting of a mixture of inorganic substances and loose pieces of hard armor. Like a machine, it obeyed the commands of the Dark Emperor and persisted. Nightmare continued its assault, shooting out thick streams of energy and small projectiles rapidly. Sparda danced back and forth, dodging and deflecting each attack. Phantom and Griffin continued releasing their projectiles at Sparda, but they were nullified upon contact. Sparda dashed toward Nightmare, trying to break its hard shell, but his attacks were useless.
Is this the best you can do?
Sparda screamed toward the sky, directing his comments at Mundus.
You sent the machine to do what you cannot.
Becoming angered with his failed attempts at stopping Nightmare, Sparda dove into the center of the blob and brought his sword down forcefully. However, this attack was voided as well. Suddenly, Nightmare's massive body began to shake, and out of nowhere, its gel-like mass formed into a dead pool, and Sparda began to slowly sink into its unyielding frame. He struggled, trying to claw his way out, but the pull was too great. He flapped his wings violently, but they were suddenly submerged in the gel along with the lower half of his body. Sparda continued to claw and scratch, and saw the faces of the two generals, Phantom and Griffin. They looked down upon him as he fruitlessly struggled for his life.
See you in hell.
Phantom mused as he and Griffin charged up their attacks once more and blasted them towards the defenseless Sparda. They hit with full impact and shoved Sparda's body completely within the blob known as Nightmare. And Sparda fell for what seemed like an eternity. Darkness surrounded him, and the wind whistled in his ears as his body descended further into the bleak abyss. He was unable to turn his body and stabilize himself in the thin air. His motor functions were not responding, and his body felt as heavy as rock. As he fell, he could hear screams and cries. But he did not know from whom. His body finally was halted by the solid burning ground. He emerged in a shadowy realm that seemed to suck the very oxygen from the air. Everything surrounding him was blurry, and he squinted trying to make out objects. Mountainous area, flowing river of lost souls, fiery underbrush.
What is this place?
Suddenly, Sparda's jaw was met by an enclosed fist, coming in fast. He collapsed to the ground, but rebounded quickly as he jumped to his feet, sword in hand. But as he stood tall, there was no one to be found.
Show yourself.
His eyes wandered over the murky atmosphere, trying to find his attacker.
I'm right here. Who said that? Over here.
The words seemed to drift in and out softer than a whisper, as the voice toyed with Sparda.
You will not win this. You are no longer worthy, you traitor, foul scum. I will vanquish you. I will make you nothing. Here you shall end.
Sparda was suddenly attacked from all sides. Slash after slash ripped through his body as he was still unable to make out his attackers. They seemed to drift in and out of reality, something beyond Sparda's comprehension.
How are they this fast?
He thought. Repeatedly, he was attacked from all sides once more. And his knees began to buckle as he tried to steady his sword.
Show yourself, you coward. What's wrong? Can't keep up?
Gritting his razor-sharp teeth, Sparda breathed in and gathered himself, trying to concentrate. He closed his eyes and held out his sword without so much as flinching. He focused his thoughts and honed his mind on his attackers as the beckoning screams in the darkness fell silent.
I can feel him, his power, but where are the others?
Then it dawned on him. There was only one attacker, not many.
But how?
Then without warning, the attacker came in hard with his blade aimed directly at Sparda's sternum. But Sparda felt his approach and guarded the attack with ease. The two stood sword to sword, neither giving ground to the other. Then Sparda's gaze turned up to the face of his attacker, and his eyes widened in horror and bemusement. Expecting to see the face of a mutilated demon, Sparda saw a face very familiar to him, and his body suddenly fell cold. He had seen this demon before, in the crystal clear flowing waters of the human world, in the windows of its monasteries, and in the reflection of his very blade. It was him. Like looking into a mirror, Sparda saw his own face in this demon's face, but its expression was not one of righteousness, but one of devilish retribution.
Do not look so surprised. You knew you'd have to face me sooner or later. It's best we end it now, rather than delay the inevitable. What? Who are you? You know who I am.
Suddenly the demon was gone, faster than Sparda could blink. He held his sword in front of him as he moved around cyclically. The demon continued to taunt him.
Oh, so I see you've forgotten. And so soon, I might add. However, contrary to what you may think, I am alive and well. Surely you did not believe you could be rid of me so easily. After all, how can one rid themselves of themselves?
The demon came in from nowhere once more, full bore, and knocked Sparda to the ground.
I do not know who you are, but whatever business you have with me, we can handle it right here. Oh, you know who I am, all right. Do not act as if you lack intelligence now. You know damn well who I am, and why I am here. Look at your face, those horns, those wings. I am you. Or rather, I am what you are supposed to be.
The demon charged in once more, appearing from thin air, kicking Sparda back down to the ground. But as Sparda looked up, the demon had disappeared once more.
How is he doing this? I can't track his movements.
Sparda thought.
Did you honestly believe that your coup would go uncontested? You are in my world. I will not let you shut us away.
Gliding back in at high speeds, the demon hit Sparda with a flurry of kicks and punches. He was the spitting image of Sparda down to every detail, from the angle of his eyes to the creases in his armor. The resemblance was beyond uncanny. Sparda attempted to fight back, moving swiftly and quickly, but all his attacks hit the air as he appeared to be fighting a being that was not there.
Why don't you show yourself? Are you so cowardly that you must hide in the shadows? Ha ha ha! Hide? I do not hide. My apologies if you are too slow to track my movements.
The demon continued his onslaught, seeming to drift in and out of time itself. His movements were so unreal, only the imaginative mind of a child could think it up. Becoming frustrated, Sparda concentrated once more.
How is he doing this? Who is he? I already told you who I was. Are you so absent-minded?
Sparda was taken aback by the comment.
He can read my thoughts. Haha, your thoughts? No, my thoughts. Your thoughts are mine, as are your power and abilities. We are one, yet we are two. You are me, and I am you. We are inseparable.
Then it finally began to sink into Sparda's mind. The picture started to become clearer, and the pit of his abdomen sunk with an epiphany.
He isn't real. But how? He feels and looks real. How can this be? Well, it's very simple, you see. I am what you are trying to destroy. I am the very thing which you have chosen to rebel against. I am a reminder of your past, of what you were, and what is still very much alive inside of you. You cannot rid yourself of your past. I will haunt your dreams for eternity if I must. I will kill you, and there is nothing you can do about it. There is only room for one Sparda, one conqueror. Have you forgotten your aspirations, your dreams? Have you forgotten your destiny? We have been destined for greatness since our birth. We let nothing stand in our way. We became general to Hell's army, and the second highest ranked demon in all of Hell. Now is the time we prove we are the highest of the highest ranked demons. The elite among elites. The king of kings. We will take the throne from Mundus and become what we were born to be. I will do this with or without you. My word is law, and you have defied me for the last time. How dare you consider the opinion of a human above mine? You are a disgrace to the demon race. You are no longer worthy. After the throne is taken, I will go to the human world and set it ablaze until all that is living becomes no more, and my will shall be done.
He appeared before Sparda once more. Sparda recoiled, tensing his muscles, preparing for another attack, but the demon simply stood and peered into his eyes, burning a hole right through him.
You truly have forgotten, haven't you? Forgotten what? Well, since you still choose to act ignorant, let me remind you who you are.
The demon began running towards Sparda at top speed. Sparda held his sword ready to guard, but the demon began running faster, not attempting to attack Sparda. As they collided, the demon vanished, as black and red smoke encompassed Sparda. Sparda then heard faint whispers in his head once more. Incoherent at first. Then sudden images began to flash in Sparda's mind. At first he could not make them out, but slowly he began to recognize them. The images continued to flash, over and over maddeningly. Sparda clasped his head in his palms, attempting to suppress the blurry images. What he saw was darker than anything he had faced before. It was himself, covered in blood, the blood of humans, innocent beings, from head to toe, standing atop a pile of dead bodies. He remembered the image, as clear as it appeared before him. Another image flashed of him, slaughtering countless more humans. Men, women as well as children fell before his blade, and he seemed to revel in his conquest. More images flashed of Sparda, bursting into homes, killing all inside and burning it to the ground without hesitation. Horror and disgust overwhelmed him as the images persisted.
Do you see now? This is you. Who you are meant to be. Since the opening of the portal, you have drawn ever closer to your ultimate goal. Look at those pathetic beings as they cower before you. No,
Sparda's words and thoughts were broken. His mind was becoming more clouded and flooded with memories of his very recent past. Millions upon millions of humans died at his hands. His rage, the devilish beast within him, was unstoppable. It hardened Sparda's heart to see what he had done.
I didn't mean,
Regret and sorrow continued to overwhelm him.
Now you know. You cannot escape your past. Your rebellion is futile.
The images continued to flash at a much faster rate. They appeared before Sparda's eyes and seemed to rip at his very thoughts. His mind felt as if it would split into two, and it drove him mad.
No, stop. You are a devil, a monster. Do not deny who you are. No, I can't. That's not.
Sparda began losing his energy as he fell to his knees.
This is who you are meant to be. Accept it. No matter what you do, you will never change the devil that dwells within you.
Sparda's mind was racing as the images persisted. It was not the pain his attacker was dealing that hurt him, but the memories of his former self, the purveyor of evil and destruction. His acts, his evil deeds, tore at his soul. Darkness began to envelop him entirely. He was slowly being sucked into the dark abyss, drawing nearer to the beast he had forsaken. He could feel the rage, the evil, the unending tyranny. He could feel the power, seemingly limitless power, and he was ashamed to acknowledge that he enjoyed it. And Sparda descended once again, not physically, but mentally, into the dark caves of his past. He could feel his former self taking hold of him, embracing him in its flaming soul.
Yes, that's it. Bask in the glory of your power. Hunger for its spoils.
This was it. Sparda was almost at the breaking point. He was surrounded by his power, and his dark heart pulsated eagerly, trying to grab hold of it. Sparda was about to forsake all he had fought for, all he'd chosen to defend. He was about to relapse back into the darkness of hell, and his will began to wane under the pressure of his own power. But then something happened. Falling within the pit of his mind, Sparda saw something. A little girl. On closer inspection, he realized that it was Marlene, appearing more distraught than when the demons took her parents from her. Her angelic face, her innocent smile, was suddenly engulfed in flames as she screamed in agony.
No!
Sparda yelled as he tried to reach her, but she was too far away and his arms felt too heavy.
No!
Marlene was incinerated before his very eyes, and even after she was dead, her screams still bounced off the walls within the pit. Then another human appeared, and another. Sparda recognized each face because he had kept a mental record during his travels to the human world. They were the humans of the Resistance, glaring down at Sparda as he fell. He recognized one man, a man he had seen with Anna before they first met. His name was Abel, and behind him stood another man, Brutus. He stood bloodied and beaten from battle. Then, just like with Marlene, they were suddenly engulfed in flames, each and every one screaming and crying in pain and anguish.
Yes, forget about them. They are nothing. They are weak.
Sparda attempted to reach them once more, but his attempts were useless.
No, stop this.
Then another human appeared. A woman, Anna. She was wearing the same dress she wore when they first met, and in her arms was a baby. Her baby, Abel's baby. She smiled at Sparda as he descended, a smile he had grown accustomed to. The baby giggled, attempting to mimic its mother.
And forget her. She is a human, a useless being, nothing more. What can she offer you that I cannot? No, not her.
Sparda could see the flames behind Anna, stretching towards her like claws seeking its prey.
No!
The flames began to tickle at her dress and creep up her leg, setting her ablaze. She screamed as she tried to protect her baby, but there was nothing she could do. The baby was engulfed in flames as well, and died almost instantly. Sparda was utterly helpless. His body was not responding, and there was nothing he could do to save her.
Ha 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 ha! Do you see now? They are pathetic, unworthy of our power. Tell me, what do they have that I do not?
Sparda was helpless, yet his mind began coming back to him, and for a split second, his thoughts were clear. He remembered his mission, and the road he decided to take. His courage and might began to build. He would not let him take it all away.
What she has is a heart. What she has is courage. She has something that you will never have. A righteous soul.
Regaining his strength, Sparda stopped himself in mid-descent and was suddenly back in the shadowy realm, staring into the eyes of his counter, his dark side.
A righteous soul? That means nothing to me. I know, and that's why you can never defeat me.
Becoming frustrated, the demon attacked Sparda head-on. However, this time, it was the demon's attack that hit thin air as Sparda disappeared.
Now I finally understand why the humans loathe our kind so, and why we could never conquer them entirely. What are you talking about? The human spirit is strong. Their will is undying. They understand the importance of unity. Even in their darkest days, they have hope. And this is why all demons shall be overcome by the blinding light of their proud spirit.
Suddenly, Sparda rushed in, his sword held out at his side. The demon turned to slice him vertically, but it was too late. An intensely sharp flash shot straight across the abdomen of the demon.
And you shall be overcome as well. No, you can't beat me. I already have. Stay as you are, in my memories.
And Sparda turned from the demon and walked away.
No, you can never forget me. Every time you look in a mirror, every time you turn your head, I will be there, lurking in your shadow, tracing your every step. You can never destroy me. You can only hope to suppress me until I finally take full control. I will haunt you forever.
The demon's body was suddenly broken in pieces by incredible light, its shards dissipating in wind, and the ground beneath Sparda's cloven hooves began to shake, and the entire area crumbled, turning into a gigantic flaming gorge. And then there was blackness, utter blackness, and Sparda could feel his body pulled violently skyward. Above him, he could see a small crease of light as he ascended towards it at lightning speeds, and he exploded out of the blob, Nightmare, forcefully landing back on solid ground. He turned to look back at the blob, which began to pulsate and shake out of control. Gelatine and fluid substances spewed out of it like a geyser as its body broke apart. Its hard armor slowly crumbled and sunk inward. Then suddenly, it caved in on itself and imploded, creating a flash of blue and white light that expanded outward, then shrank down to nothing. The horror known as Nightmare was no more. Sparda shook his head, as if trying to awake from a horrible dream. Within seconds, his mind was clear once more, and he surveyed the empty battlefield. Suddenly, Sparda could feel something coming in over his shoulder. Faster than the eye could see, the poison-tipped tail of Phantom, the spider-scorpion hybrid, was caught in between the two clawed fingers of Sparda. The stinger had come dangerously close to the back of Sparda's head.
Are you so cowardly that you must attack me from behind?
Sparda turned toward Phantom, still holding the tip of its tail with his two fingers.
Release me!
Then another attack came in from behind Sparda. The red lighting orbs did nothing but bounce around Sparda's body and hit Phantom, dead in his 6 eyes. Phantom cried out in pain as his body convulsed.
So I see you both are in the business of sneak attacks.
Sparda said as he looked over his shoulder at Griffin, who hovered in the air.
Since you two have so much in common, why don't I let you spend some time together?
Suddenly, Sparda grabbed Phantom's tail with both of his hands.
What are you doing?
Phantom screamed. He began swinging Phantom around in a circle, gaining more momentum with each swing.
Let go of me! As you wish.
Then Sparda released Phantom, sending him hurling toward Griffin. Griffin tried to dodge, but he was too slow. Phantom's body crashed hard into Griffin's, and they both went sailing off wildly into the darkness as their screams faded away. As Griffin and Phantom continued to sail through the black abyss of hell, they came to the same portal that Alastor showed Sparda not 3 hours ago. As they entered the portal, Phantom's tail hit a rocky cliff and something fell from the top. It was Ifrit's flaming gauntlets and greaves, all that was left behind from his mutilated corpse as they hit the ground. As the wind from the portal blew strongly, the greaves and gauntlets also entered the portal as they followed the two beastly demons and hit the ground of the island, landing mere inches from Alastor's sword. Both weapons glowed together in unison with electricity and fire. The battleground was quiet, and Sparda was filled with a renewed spirit and a renewed resolve. He was not sure that what had happened inside of Nightmare was real or a figment of his imagination, but he was certain that he had now found his true calling, and not once would he turn away from it. The event had spurred a new hope and a stronger resolve within him, and he would need it if he was to face the darkness, Mundus. And with those thoughts, the 3 triangular-shaped eyes of Mundus appeared in the sky.
You have done well, Sparda. You have destroyed 12 legions of my army, defeated 3 of my generals, and have
Sparda could make out the silhouette of Mundus's huge body.
Shall we commence?
Sparda looked around and realized that he was standing in the room of the Fallen Ones, the same place where the Battle of Argosax began. Then it was known as the Blood Plain, filled with the flowing blood rivers of hell. Now the room of the Fallen Ones. It housed the statues of all those who fell for Mundus that day.
How ironic you choose to end this here.
Sparda responded.
Yes, very ironic that this day will end with my victory once again. We'll see.
And the two devils, maybe the strongest two in all of hell, headed for each other. The darkness Mundus versus the righteous Sparda. The fate of both worlds now rested on this very battle, and all of hell fell silent. Chapter 7. All Hail the King. A brilliant flash of white light surged from Mundus' fist, flying full force towards Sparda, and Sparda glowed a bright purple with his sword at the ready. They headed toward each other seemingly in slow motion. The greatest battle hell had ever seen was about to commence. Bolting toward Mundus, Sparda drew his sword parallel to the ground as red flames poured from his blade. Sparda's sword and Mundus' fist hit each other with such force that a crater formed beneath the demons, quickly filling itself up with blood. Sparda and Mundus stopped, both realizing that they had traded places. Both turned at the same time and stared into each other's souls. Neither of them even breathed. Not a muscle moved in each body, both waiting for the other to make a move. Mundus clenched his fist. Small pieces of loose stone cracked and fell off. Sparda tightened his grip on his sword. With lightning speed, Sparda's wings snapped and he flew into hell's murky sky. Mundus' eyes flashed and red arrows flew at Sparda. Deflecting the arrows, knocking them to the ground, Sparda was set on Mundus. The Dark Emperor chuckled and leapt backward, dissolving into nothingness.
What's wrong? Afraid to face me, Mundus? I hate to be hypocritical.
Mundus' words echoed from nowhere.
But I had such faith in you, Sparda. You were indeed the diamond of my eye.
A stone pillar shot from the ground, cutting Sparda's skin across the shoulder blade. Mundus reappeared and kicked Sparda to the ground.
You are more than just a puppet on a string moving at my whim. You have a soul.
Sparda said, staggering upward.
That is nothing more than a stereotypical illusion based on the horrid inadequacies of human flesh.
Another melee attack on Sparda from Mundus resulted in Sparda being knocked into a statue. The room of the Fallen Ones was filled with them. Sparda landed on his feet and cleared away the debris of the crumbling abyss statue with his sword.
What is it you seek? To purge the demonic forces from the right side of the universe. Answer me.
A beam of light erupted from Mundus' palm. Sparda rolled away in time to see the abyss statue ignite into flames. Melee attacks hit Sparda from all directions at once as he began to show his weakness from fighting, falling to one knee but never being defeated. Fatigue washed over him. Pain, fear, and hate. Hate for everything he'd done, and the possibility of making it right never being achieved. Hate which, in his soul, the thing Mundus did not believe in. The thing Sparda didn't believe in until he found his own. But most of all, the hate for Mundus, the great manipulator.
Oh, so suddenly you hate your own kind, a kind of treachery even I didn't think was possible. Why do you hate those who actually act?
Sparda raised his head.
Spare me another. I'm better than Argosax, speech Mundus. I'm in no mood. That useless being. No, naive Sparda.
Sparda looked at Mundus as his confusion mixed with dazed hallucinations.
What? Did you really think it was so simple as humans and demons? Even you cannot deny that we are stronger than they, which is why you fight for them. You did, didn't you? Not only are you naive, but stupid as well. How could I have thought so highly of you?
Mundus blurred in and out of focus before Sparda's eyes. This wasn't how the fight for humanity was supposed to be. This was a battle of willpower to see if Sparda would crack. Sparda loomed ever closer to the edge of complete physical and mental collapse as Mundus continued his admonishment.
Most of the beings in this realm worship the king. You know that it is no different in their realm. Here, my word is law, but there, a disgusting communal effort. Few simple rules and no laws. But tell me, who do you think laid out those rules? Another being?
Sparda thought.
Oh yes, young Sparda. Of course there is another. Do you know what he is, though? A watcher, just as hopeless and gluttonous as Argosax was. While his people literally burned in his world, dying deaths that give a demon honor, what did he do? Nothing. What makes you think that if the creator of all things will do nothing to help his shining kingdom, that you, a demon with a heart full of darkness and evil oozing from his pores, can do a thing to stop me?
Sparda's mind raced.
Another being? But who? Is this just one of Mundus' tricks?
Sparda did not know what to make of this newfound information, and it only furthered his confusion to interpret it.
I must remain focused.
He thought to himself.
I do not know what you speak of, but whatever it is, it does not matter. All that matters is the here and now. And now you will fight me, and there is nothing you can say or do to change that. This is where we fight. This is where you die. Yeah!
Sparda sprung from the ground and made a beeline at Mundus. Mundus thought. Dodging the incoming attack, Mundus clasped his stone hands around the waist of Sparda and squeezed tightly. His grip was so strong, it caught Sparda by surprise, almost making him drop his blade.
God! Tell me, Sparda, how did you think this pathetic rebellion would end? Surely you knew your failure was imminent. Do you even believe in what you are doing? Or are you once again being twisted and moved by the machinations of another, that woman, Anna? Don't you speak her name? That won't happen. Oh really? Who's going to stop me? I will. No, you're wrong.
Mundus tightened his grip around Sparda's waist, surely rupturing some internal organs that would heal in seconds. Sparda writhed in pain as Mundus threw his body back to the ground. Before Sparda could regain his balance and look up, Mundus disappeared once more.
After I kill you, Sparda, I will rededicate this room in your name, and your headstone will read, "Here lies Sparda, the treacherous fool. May all demons spit on his grave."
Then, without warning, the many statues surrounding Sparda sprung to life. With glowing red eyes, under the power of Mundus, Sparda was surrounded on all sides by the living statues of Abyss, Shadows, Hells, Vanguards, and the ever-so-dangerous Frosts.
As always, you send others to do your bidding. Have you no integrity?
Then, as Mundus towered in the background, each statue descended upon Sparda at once, with ferocious intensity. Sparda attempted to slay them, just as he did to millions more mere hours ago. But to his dismay, their strength was more than triple it had been before, and their skill had quadrupled. Their stone structure was more than just brittle rock. It acted as a near indestructible body armor that repelled Sparda's long-range projectile.
What? How can this be? I can't be out of energy. They can't be this strong. No, Sparda. This is not an illusion. However, if you still doubt my power, then let me enlighten you once more.
Suddenly, in a burst of raw power, the statues erupted with energy and began emitting a purple aura and seemed to increase in strength. Sparda hunkered down and gritted his sharp teeth, riddled with an overwhelming fatigue. The living statues assaulted Sparda, attacking from all angles, each with its own unique fighting style and abilities. The Frosts used their quickness and agility to outmaneuver Sparda, while the usually unintelligent Hells relentlessly attacked in groups. For the time being, Sparda managed to fend them off, but they gained ground with each wave and slowly began to suffocate him like two hands grasping a flea. Sparda's flawless defense began to wane with each passing second as his body was met with repeated attacks, slowly nulling his healing factor. And as Sparda stood in the center of his apparent graveyard, with a battered and bruised body, he started to lose all hope. Falling to one knee, with his sword planted in the ground, Sparda continued taking fierce attacks. With shards and blades embedded in his chest, neck, and back, Sparda prepared himself for his imminent defeat. Never would he have thought that his life would end this way. Mundus whispered as he looked down at the slaughter, and all hope seemed lost. Mundus had won, but not quite. As Sparda lay beneath the pile of the demon onslaught, his body torn beyond recognition, a spark went off in his head. Like a subtle but deadly whisper, a voice called to Sparda.
You see, you cannot do this on your own. You need me. Accept it.
Sparda knew this voice, and he recognized its tone. He was being confronted once more by the evil that dwelled within him.
This is not how or where you die. You know this. Now get up.
And all of Sparda's better instincts told him to reject the voice, to deny the evil within. But Sparda's body said otherwise. His will to live encouraged him and told him to give in. Sparda laid motionless on the ground, face down, as his body continued to be mutilated. All he could do physically was move his eyes, and as he did, he saw the face of Mundus in the distance, looking down on him as he had so much of his life, looking down on him as if he was not worthy to look him in the face. All Sparda could think about was his hate and disdain for him, and his growing anger that had started so long ago when Mundus took the throne of Hell. Unlike all other demons, he never feared Mundus and had always felt that his power was far greater than his.
I have always been stronger than you. You do not deserve the throne.
Sparda thought, as he slowly began to get sucked into his thoughts, his darkness.
You do not deserve your power.
Then something began to happen. In the most unlikely of events, Sparda had given in to his own power, and it rained over his body like a flood.
I will show you what true power is.
Suddenly all of Sparda wounds healed instantly, and he rose to his feet with sword in hand, as a red orb of energy surrounded his body. With one scream, a burst of fiery energy exploded outwards and shattered the stone armor of the surrounding demons. Now standing helpless, the demons were slain by Sparda in a blink of an eye, leaving trails of flames in his wake. Appearing surprised and perplexed, Mundus quickly gathered himself. Sparda stared Mundus dead in the eyes like a cold assassin. His muscles tensed up, and not even his wings so much as flinched.
You will not forget this devil's power. You are not worthy as my opponent.
The comment seemed to take Mundus aback, but before he could even think about it, Sparda was attacking him like a hawk. Sparda seemed to have regained all his strength and was moving faster than ever before. He first attacked Mundus head-on, slicing him directly through his third eye. He then came from behind, tearing at Mundus's wings. Then Sparda attacked from the side, hitting Mundus hard with a ball of red energy. The entire assault took him off guard, as he was not fast enough to defend himself. Becoming disgusted with Sparda's attacks, Mundus attempted to attack Sparda mentally once more. But his words fell on deaf ears, and Sparda attacked like a stone-cold killer. Mundus realized that Sparda's attacks were actually damaging him, and it began to dawn on him that he may actually lose this fight. But his pride overcame him, and he refused to concede. Suddenly, Mundus spread his wings and floated backwards, sucking out all the light surrounding both he and Sparda. Then, as he hovered in the distance, he began throwing meteors at Sparda made of light and stone. Sparda remained stagnant and began repelling the stones as each successive wave became larger and faster. Mundus taunted as meteors began to come at Sparda from all sides. But to Mundus's surprise, not one stone had so much as grazed Sparda. Becoming frustrated, Mundus intensified his attacks, shooting out beams of white light and red energy spears at Sparda, along with his meteorites. The attack would have killed millions of demons at once, but it did nothing to Sparda. He remained still and deflected each attack as if it was nothing. Mundus began to breathe deeply, but tried to conceal any signs of weakness. The attacks had stopped, and both demons glared at one another. For the first time in Mundus' life, he was unsure of what would happen next, and that thought of uncertainty terrified him. But he displayed his terror with anger and pride.
It's not too late for you, Sparda. You can still come back. You can still serve me.
Disregarding the comment, Sparda spoke.
Are you done yet?
The question was met with silence.
Well, I guess it's my turn.
Before Mundus could blink, Sparda was charging toward him with his sword cocked back and his body surrounded by his protective orb.
Yeah!
Mundus prepared himself for the impact, but right before Sparda made contact, he vanished, leaving a series of flaming red orbs behind. Mundus appeared confused as the battlefield fell silent, and Sparda was nowhere in sight. Mundus looked all around but found nothing, and time seemed to stop. Then, growing arrogant, Mundus revealed more of his pride.
So it seems you'd rather run than face me, but no worries. I forgive you. I am glad you have realized your place.
But then, out of nowhere, a subtle wind caught Mundus's stone ears, distracting him for a moment. Suddenly, his body began to tremble as if a stampede was approaching. And at the last minute he raised his head to see a red glimmer of light descending upon him with lightning speed. But before he could make out the image, it was too late. Sparda had brought his sword down hard upon his helm, sending a sharp red light through the center of his body. Mundus stood frozen in midair as he locked eyes with Sparda once more.
You cannot.
Sparda peered into Mundus, trying to decipher why he had ever chosen to follow such a being to begin with. Why did he follow a being who was inferior to him?
You cannot defeat me.
Sparda knew it was over, and a sense of relief and redemption washed over him.
I already have.
Sparda then turned his back to Mundus and began flying away.
How dare you? I am the king of hell. You shall bow before me.
Suddenly, The flaming orbs surrounding Mundus's body began to pulsate, and without warning, they converged upon him at once, sending his body into a million pieces. As blinding white light filled the entire area, and almost all of hell seemed to scream simultaneously. Sparda stopped in mid-flight and took a deep breath, seeming to revert back to his normal form. Confusion and a feeling of numbness overwhelmed him. He had just accomplished the greatest feat in his life, but he did not feel victorious.
I let it take over. How could I have done that? I can't let it happen again. I will lock this place away for eternity.
And with that thought, Sparda made his way back to the portal, with only one thing on his mind.
I must find Anna.
Sparda had seemingly done the impossible. He had traversed the dangerous caverns of hell, came face to face with its strongest warriors, and defeated them. He had even defeated the Dark Lord Mundus. Or so it seemed. Chapter 8. Haunting Past. Find Anna. The words ran wild through Sparda's mind in a frantic, chaos-like jumble of confusion, but oddly focused and aware. Barreling through hell so fast he seemed to be pushing the very essence of hell aside like it was slowing him down. To Sparda, hell seemed like a wasteland. Whether it was his coup that completely ruined his former beautiful home, or if it was something else, he wasn't sure. Dead ahead of him lay the portal, wide open, ready for any demon to walk through it. He burst through it in a flash of light, carrying a trail of hellfire and rolling black smoke. Soon, he hoped, this would be over, and he could shut the gateway and place hell itself under lock and key. Anna and the rest of the resistance stand staring at the tower. For hours now, the tower has been behaving strangely, like Dr. Jekyll trying to suppress Mr. Hyde. The entire tower seemed to shake not more than 15 minutes previous. Now it had returned to behaving like it was under stress, like something was happening in hell to disturb it. A group decision among the resistance supported the idea that the final battle was coming, the last attack from the demons, and the most violent.
Come on, let's get ready.
Anna said. As a leader, she knew that the chances of winning a head-on fight against the demons was lunacy. But she knew, as well as everyone else did, that simply sitting down and letting the evil take over their land was even more beyond absurd. Men hugged their wives and children, locking them in underground bunkers, determined to make the demons fight to get to them. Women, and even some children who lost their husbands and fathers, joined in the crowd, ready to give the demons hell. Those who were ill-equipped to fight, like the wounded from previous battles, watched helplessly in what they thought was the last hours of this world. Others still, like Ivan the weapons manufacturer and alchemist, stayed behind and worked tirelessly to what he was good at. The small army of humans moved outside and towards the tower, ready to make a hold, for however long they could, a line of defense against the demons. Anna walked as confidently as she could, leading the group. As they got close to the point they'd make their stand, a burst of fire erupted from the gateway, and Anna heard the crowd gasp and move back in unison. She turned to them to try to give them courage.
I know this isn't easy, but we cannot let them simply take us to our deaths.
No sooner than she had finished the sentence, a rush of wind whipped past the crowd. And with a streak of dark crimson and black, Anna was taken, gone from the eyes of her army. Everyone stood in shock. With their leader gone, one by one, they left to hide with their families. With one fell swoop, everything that held the army together was taken. Before she knew what happened, Anna was several hundred feet in the air, held around the waist by what she knew was a demon, and only could hope was Sparda.
Don't worry.
Her thoughts were confirmed by the sound of human language, yet a demonic voice. Sparda's voice. Quickly and swiftly, she noticed he was bringing her back down the ground, on the opposite side of the tower. She soon regained her composure when Sparda landed, placing her on her feet. A furious storm of words was ready to tear Sparda apart, but his clawed hand quickly covered her mouth, the other holding the back of her head so that she wouldn't pull away.
At any other time, I'd be more than happy to hold a ritual screaming with you about my evil ways and my lack of understanding. But right now, something much bigger is happening, or is about to, and I need your help to stop it.
He let go of her head. She realized that, by the tone of his voice alone, that he was anxious, even nervous about something.
I think I already figured out that an army of your brothers is about to blast through that gate and kill us all.
No, not yet. Right now, they're trying to sort out what I've done. Recompose themselves. Then, an army that even I can't imagine in strength and numbers will tear this world apart.
Anna stood perplexed.
But why? Why wait?
Because with no order to their chaos, they'll run in circles as if to try to find their way.
He looked at Anna, who still looked confused.
No king, no kingdom.
Anna's eyes grew wide.
So, what do you need me for?
Soon the army will grow aware of the death of their king and seek revenge on me and on your people. I have a strong hunch that the army is something that can't be stopped, but must be locked away.
Sparda's continued words flowed through Anna, as she thought, almost word for word, what he said. Her hand fell to a bag on her side, holding, among other things, a very important book given to her, what seemed like a lifetime ago, by someone she loved dearly.
You were there when all this began. The key that unlocked my world will also lock it back. I cannot do this alone, and you're the only one I trust left standing.
Anna felt torn.
But my people need me.
So do I. By helping me, you'll help them.
Sparda walked past her, towards a large gate to the tower.
Come, we haven't much time.
As they entered the large door, a sudden burst of cold hit Anna. So cold she felt like her skin was about to freeze. Sparda held her close to himself, trying to keep her warm. As they reached the other side of the large room, they were met by a huge wall of ice, acting like a door. Through the clear ice, they could see the center of the tower. A sudden sound like a huge chain rattled behind them. Sparda turned, Anna still in his arms, and was instantly face to face with Cerberus. As the hellhound glared at them, saliva dripped from his 3 jaws, freezing instantly as he exhaled. Anna felt like everything she thought she knew about demons was a lie at the mere sight of Cerberus, as if she was supposed to fear and tremble at his sight, and she did. Sparda was ready to attack, but Cerberus stood down, letting the frozen door melt away.
Power is what I answer to. I acknowledge your ability. You may pass. You have my blessing.
They passed through into the vertical corridor of the tower. The ice reformed, and Sparda thought he could make out a faint nod from the hellhound. They quickly raced deep into the tower, reaching another guardian's room, the firestorm chamber. Agni and Rudra stood waiting for Sparda. The headless hosts that wielded the demonic, self-aware swords kneeled.
We could be a great help to you,
One said.
Yes, we've waited for someone who could control us, someone stronger than us.
Said the other.
You will take us with you?
They both said in unison in the form of a question. Sparda was taken back. Amazing how so many here were unhappy with Mundus. But he couldn't for so many reasons. He brushed past them.
Maybe next time.
Sparda swung open the door, Anna close behind. What she saw there shocked her. Giant iron cubes, floating and twisting in the air. She turned to close the massive metal door of the firestorm chamber. The demonic scimitars looked almost saddened as she shut the door. Both she and Sparda peered over the edge of the platform they stood on. The huge dark room was dizzying, even to Sparda. After a few seconds, he looked at Anna.
Those cubes have a pattern. You can get down easily, though it will take time.
He snapped his wings, ready to jump.
Wait, can't you just take me?
Anna asked.
No. I have something I have to take care of.
He burst into flight and went through a door at the bottom of the room. What he saw in the next room was sickening. Huge torture wheels running through demonic lava. Humans hung from the ceiling in every contortion possible. He knew exactly whose room this was, and that they weren't going to be as easygoing as the other two Guardians had been.
I can see that you've made yourself right at home, old friend.
A roar bellowed from above, followed by a huge scaled foot. Sparda was instantly buried in the stone ground.
You reek of betrayal.
Beowulf scrapped Sparda up with one hand and tossed him in the air. Then with the other hand, glowing with demonic white light, he hit Sparda dead center, sending him into the opposing wall across the room. The force of the hit knocked Sparda a few feet into the wall. Sparda focused on Beowulf as his former friend and comrade snapped his own pearly white wings. Sparda snapped his, letting him loose from the stone. He flew full force at Beowulf, who jumped in the air and hit the ground with a fist, sending a volcano of light upwards, hitting Sparda, knocking him to the ground. Beowulf has advantages over Sparda no one else does. They grew up together and know everything about each other, including combat weaknesses. Beowulf leapt into the air and landed in front over Sparda, leaning over his treacherous foe. Sparda lifted his sword quickly. Beowulf knocked it away and slammed an open hand on Sparda, pinning him.
I've always wondered what you looked like without all that armor.
Beowulf said calmly.
I think I'll peel it off your bones.
He tightened his grip as the door swung open.
Anna!
Sparda called out in his demonic tongue. Beowulf turned and smiled. He hit the floor hard with his foot, and a cage fell down on Anna. The impact on the ground sunk the cage inward slightly, trapping her. Beowulf turned back to Sparda.
And she can watch.
Just then, Anna opened up the brown leather book. She frantically flicked through the pages until she stopped and began to read some incantation. A loud locking sound reverberated in the room. Beowulf loosened his grip on Sparda and turned to face Anna. Beowulf's eyes grew wide.
No, no!
Beowulf, now ignoring Sparda, ran for the cage housing Anna, screaming at her in a voice she didn't understand.
No, it's my job to protect the lair. How did you acquire such a relic?
He rattled her cage, trying to get it loose from the ground.
Ah!
Anna screamed in terror as Sparda, with unsurpassed speed, grabbed his sword. With a flick of the wrist, the sword became a scythe as Beowulf lifted the cage and tossed it aside, lunging for Anna. Sparda hurled the scythe with all his strength. Anna curled up as Beowulf was about to close his hands on her. and the room fell silent. Sparda's sword returned like a boomerang to its master. Beowulf screamed in pain, grabbing his face. Anna, covered in the liquid that used to be Beowulf's left eye, jumped and ran for the door. Beowulf stumbled blindly, screaming in pain. Sparda ran past him, clicking his sword on his back. Beowulf heard this and the door opening.
No, you coward. I'll hunt you down.
Sparda slammed the door behind him and heard Beowulf's muffled tones as Anna recited another incantation from the book.
Pray I'll find you, Sparda. If I don't, I'll hunt your children, or their children. Your entire lineage will suffer for you. I'll track them all, forever.
Anna closed the book and waved her hand, finishing the spell. The locking sound from within the door rumbled again. Anna breathed heavy.
You were right! You do need me.
Aside for the obviousness of that statement, why do you say that?
Sparda asked as he turned around. To his surprise, everything had changed since before he confronted his old friend. Before them now lay a large staircase with what looked like a train car on tracks.
That's why!
She said, smiling.
What is all of this?
Anna hurried down the stairs.
This is what we need to use to reach that door we need to lock.
They jumped on the train, and it sped through the bowels of the tower. When it stopped, they were met by a long blue corridor with a large iron door at the end. The door had cutaways that showed the massive locks within. They started down the corridor.
Soon we will reach the Lair of Judgment. There we'll be able to lock this tower and the underworld away for good.
As they reached the door, Anna stood in shock. A red piece of stone lay in the middle of the door. Anna ran her fingers over it.
Someone's already been here.
Sparda, growing anxious, reached for his sword.
Or they still are.
He turned the stone, undoing the series of locks. The door swung open. The Lair of Judgment. In this hall laid the destiny of all three figures that now stood within it. The architect sat poised upon his throne, fashioned out of human bones and dead demon corpses. He held a tattered leather strap in his bony left hand, on the other end of which was his demonic steed, Geryon. The scar that marked his face since he began his unholy crusade now covered the majority of his body, making him unrecognizable as his former self. Before him stood Anna with Sparda watching close behind. A devilish grin formed upon his face, and he spoke.
So the traitor finally chose to show his face.
His voice was deep and raspy, and his eyes faded from blue to black as he spoke. His comments were directed towards Sparda, as he completely disregarded his daughter, who stood before him, holding her brown book given to her only 2 years ago by Abel, close to her chest.
Father, don't you recognize me?
Still ignoring his daughter, the architect continued to taunt Sparda.
Do you realize that you can never defeat the darkness? It is far too great, far too powerful to ever be overcome.
Sparda did not respond, but instead held back cautiously, awaiting an attack. Anna continued to approach her father, or whatever was left of him, as the tears began to well up in her eyes again.
Father, all this time I thought you were dead. But lo and behold, here you stand. This must be fate. I came here for a reason. I came here to save the human race, and to save you.
The comment seemed to catch at least part of the architect's attention, as his glowing eyes fell upon his daughter.
It is not too late for you. I know you have done terrible things, that you have hate dwelling within you. There was a time when hate dwelled within me, but I realized that is not the way to conquer evil. It only makes the darkness stronger. It is not too late for you.
Her words seemed to bounce right off the architect as he remained cold and poised. But they did seem to seep into the mind of Sparda as his thoughts trailed off. Growing more and more frustrated, Anna continued to try and sway her father.
Don't you get it? We can end this. We can make it like it was.
But again her comments went unheard as she came dangerously close to her father. This was just the moment he had wanted as he attempted to grip Anna's neck. But before he could move a muscle, the tip of Sparda's blade was at his throat.
Stay right where you are. I suppose the rumors of your abilities were not all myth after all.
No, don't!
Anna screamed to Sparda.
Father, please. You do not have to do this.
As the architect's eyes fell upon Anna once more, he spoke.
When you call me that, I am not your father. Only darkness resides here.
Uttering those words, the hope Anna had sought seemed to drift away like a thief in the night. She realized that she could not save her father. He was lost to her. The architect's attention then drew back to Sparda.
And you?
Suddenly the architect lifted his hand, and the entire room turned a dull bluish color as he conducted his time-stop technique. Sparda and Anna moved in slow motion as the architect leapt from the seat of his throne into the air, landing mere feet behind Sparda.
You are not as powerful as you think,
he uttered as he prepared his clawed right hand for Sparda. But then, as the architect was about to attack, Sparda turned to face him, moving at normal speeds again, but Anna and everything else remained nulled.
What? How?
The architect could not say any more as Sparda grabbed him by the throat and slammed him hard to the ground, causing the blue nulling effect to shatter like glass. Anna looked around, dazed and confused, and turned around to see her father being held up by his throat by Sparda.
Wait! No!
So, I've underestimated you, but it seems you have underestimated me as well. Carry on, attack.
The gigantic blue horse shuffled back, as if it was preparing to charge. Sparda dropped the architect to the ground and turned to defend himself. But as the horse approached, it did nothing more but clamor before Sparda, making no threatening movements whatsoever.
Garyon, attack him now.
But the horse did nothing. This monstrous demonic horse that stood before Sparda now acted as a loving pup, obeying its master. Sparda let down his guard and approached the horse, running his cloven hands through its flaming mane.
Enough of this.
Now the architect had his sights set on Anna once more and lunged at her with deadly speed. But he did not make it 5 steps from her before Sparda's blade had ran through his abdomen.
Ah!
Anna turned her head at the sight. The architect's lifeblood began to flow from him as his glowing blue eyes started to fade into normal human eyes. He gurgled blood in his mouth as he looked at Anna.
I know you.
Her eyes filled with tears. Anna glared back at the architect, her father.
Father?
My daughter.
Yes, Father, it's me.
I should have.
What is it, Father?
Suddenly, the architect's eyes turned a distant blue once more.
I should have killed you alongside your mother.
Anna's eyes widened, and a sharp pain hit her in the chest as her heart sank. The architect attempted one final attack at her, but as his body moved, so did Anna's. Before she could even think, she had pulled her pistol from its holster and planted a bullet right in the center of her father's head. The gunshot echoed throughout the entire hall until it became a faint whisper. The architect slid off Sparda's blade as he dropped backward to the ground. As his body let out its final breath, a dark spirit emerged from his soul, screaming and writhing in pain. It was the Rider, the demonic being that had possessed the architect's ever-so-willing body. The Dark Rider struggled as his body broke apart. Then suddenly he leapt at Geryon, entering its body. The horse shrieked as its body was teleported away. The horse's cries could be heard as it fell further and further within the bowels of the tower. Anna's slender hands trembled as she still held the smoking gun extended in mid-air. Her eyes glanced off into the distance. As she glared down at her father, she could not hold back her tears. All her pain and hurt over the past few years had come down to this. Never did she think that it would be her that would end the life of her father. The thought cut into her stomach like a cold blade. As she fell down to both knees, holding her father's head in her arms, she wept, like she had never wept before. All kinds of emotions surged through her veins. Feelings of pain and loss hit her immediately, but at the same time, feelings of relief and closure wrapped around her heart. She knew she had done everything in her power to save her father, and now she knew that he no longer had to struggle with his own demons. He was free. His soul was now at rest. Sparda peered down at Anna out of the corner of his eye, trying not to look at her directly. He knew exactly what was occurring, but he did not understand why. He did not understand why Anna was mourning a being who had tried to kill her. The connection between human beings was deeper than he could ever possibly understand, and at that moment, he realized that he may never understand it fully. Feeling like a cork was stuck in his throat, Sparda managed to speak.
Anna, we must finish this.
Wiping her tears and slowly gathering herself, Anna stood erect.
Yes, we end this tonight.
And so Anna and Sparda prepared to close the portal, to shut away the Tower of Fear, and to stop the darkness once and for all. Chapter 9. Fate. The lair of judgment was silent. Only the faint echoes of the fierce battle occurring outside its walls could be heard. Anna and Sparda stood motionless in the center of the hall, with the body of her dead father close by.
So how do we do this?
Sparda's question startled Anna. Her mind was still fixed on what she had just done. She still peered down at the dead body of her father. Her body was trembling in shock.
Anna!
Yes.
She snapped back into reality. She knew she still had a mission to complete, and all that had been done this night would have been in vain if she did not finish it.
This.
Anna held out the brown book in her hands.
The answers we seek lie in here.
If Sparda had eyebrows, he would have raised one in puzzlement.
And what is that supposed to do?
This book. It is the counterbalance to everything that has happened. I have waited so long for this moment. So long to find someone like you. A being from their world that would help us.
Anna opened the book and began to flip through its pages with an uncanny familiarity. She had gone through these steps so many times in her head, but she never believed she would ever get a chance to use them until now.
This book tells of a way to shut the demons away for good. A way to destroy this tower.
Anna continued to thumb through the pages until she stopped at the page she wanted.
Here!
Sparda turned his body to face her, unconsciously squeezing the handle of his sword very tightly. Anna took deep breaths, preparing to tell Sparda how he could single-handedly win the war between humans and demons. She cleared her throat and spoke.
Well, the first key that we need is the blood of a devil. But it cannot be any devil. It must be the blood of a demon that has chosen the path of righteousness.
Anna looked at Sparda intently, searching for any signs of hesitation.
So you need my blood, then?
Sparda's words trailed off as his head turned down to the left.
Yes.
Anna said as if making a plea to Sparda.
So be it.
Without hesitation, Sparda took his sword and sliced himself through his left hand, allowing his blood to flow into the glowing crevice in the center of the hall. Both Anna and Sparda looked on as the blood continued to flow. Sparda seemed ready to give all the blood in his body for this cause, as he squeezed his wrist, causing the crimson liquid to flow faster.
Okay, that should be enough.
Anna said as a cold sweat began to perspire on her forehead.
Now, it says that a devil's power must be harnessed outside the realm of hell and kept in the human world. Again, this power must be that of a demon with a proud spirit and a righteous soul.
So how do you propose I do that?
Well, you need to channel your power and secure it inside something solid.
Anna's mind raced and she wondered if what she had just said sounded as absurd as she'd thought.
Something solid.
Sparda thought. Then a light bulb went off in his head as he looked up at Anna. He did not look into her eyes, but instead focused on the charm around her neck.
What about that?
Sparda pointed to it with his sword. Anna looked down at the charm and grabbed it with her free hand.
This?
Memories of her father hit her instantly. He was the one who had given the charm to her so long ago. It was his last gift to her before he went away for a long time.
This amulet was given to me by my father. I think it is only right that good will come of its use. Here!
Anna took the charm from around her neck and handed it to Sparda. He placed it on the ground and unsheathed his sword from between his wings. Then, in a flash, he raised his sword into the air with the tip pointed down and pierced the amulet, causing an intense red light to shoot out from all sides. A surging wind arose, knocking Anna to the ground, causing the entire tower to shake. But within seconds, the quake stopped, and a faint wind trailed off and dissipated. As the dust settled, Anna looked down at the amulet, now glowing a bright red, illuminating its silver exterior. Sparda picked up the amulet and held it out toward Anna.
Here, I think it will be safe with you.
She took the amulet and clenched it tightly.
What is the next step?
Sparda said, growing anxious, feeling a cold from the thought of closing the portal to hell.
Nothing! That's it. It doesn't say anything else. I suppose now we just have to wait for the incantation to take effect.
Sparda said, as he clamped his sword on his back and folded his arms.
And so, we wait.
Outside the lair and around the Temenni Grove, an intense battle raged on, as the human resistance was slowly making its way up the tower. Demons seemed to fall faster than ever before, as the sheer will of the humans overwhelmed them. Their battle cries and screams echoed on into the night sky, blending with the sounds of the swirling winds from above. The final assault had begun. The end of the war was nigh. Inside the Lair of Judgment, Anna and Sparda waited for the spell to take effect, but to their chagrin nothing occurred. Not so much as a sound.
What's going on? Isn't this supposed to work?
Sparda growled impatiently. He grew more apprehensive, knowing that an unlimited flood of demons could stream from the portal at any moment if it was not closed.
I don't know what's wrong. It's supposed to be working. The book doesn't say anything else.
Anna cried, flipping through the pages of the book once more. But then a realization hit her like freezing rain. Her face fell pale and her jaw dropped as she looked at the pages of the book.
How did I not see this? How did this go unnoticed?
She thought to herself. On closer inspection of the book, she noticed something. Small bits of torn paper lay within the spine of the book in between the pages.
Oh no!
Anna yelled, her voice cracking mid-sentence.
What is it?
Sparda roared, noticing the fear in her voice.
A page! It's missing! Someone tore it out! We can't finish the spell. There is one more key, but I don't know what it is. All hope is lost.
Dread and dismay overcame her, and her face trembled in horror as she looked at Sparda. Sparda did not know what to do. He did not know what to say. Once again, he was staring failure in the face, and this time, he had no answer for it. His heart beat faster and faster as he began accepting this fate. Then suddenly, a thunderous boom exploded from above the tower, and an indescribable bright light poured into the lair of judgment, causing Sparda and Anna to shield their eyes. As the light receded, Sparda looked up to see a horrifying scene. White feathers fell upon him and the cold floor of the hall ever so gently. And before him, like Sparda had seen him the very first time in his life, was Mundus. Standing between Sparda and Anna, Mundus stood only inches taller than Sparda. It seemed he had reverted back to his original state of being. Sparda was at a loss for words. Anna looked up at the back of Mundus's angelic wings in astonishment. Sparda's shock slowly began to turn to anger as he took up his sword.
Mundus! I see you've been busy in my short absence.
Mundus chuckled, holding out his hands.
You see, Sparda, as I told you before, you can never defeat me, no matter how strong you think you are. I will proceed with my plans to rule this world, but first, I will burn it to the ground, unleashing my entire army upon it, choking it, eroding, till all that is left are the memories of a forgotten race. And on the ruins of these lands, I will build my new kingdom, just as I did before.
Sparda had had enough. The very sight of Mundus at this point made him sick. At this moment he was tired of fighting. He was disgusted with the seemingly endless storm of evil. He was tired of having to prove himself over and over. The rage built within him, and he could feel himself doing it again, losing control. His body left the ground and lunged toward Mundus before he could think. In a violent battle cry, he extended his sword outward as he glided across the ground. The last thing he remembered was the smirking face of Mundus. As he made contact, an incredible light filled the lair, and the entire tower glowed.
Ah!
All Sparda could hear was a faint scream that was suddenly cut short. There was one more thunderous bang, and the light was sucked out of the lair faster than the eye could see. Sparda struggled to refocus his eyes on the scene. As his eyes made the adjustment, he looked forward, hoping to see the dead body of Mundus on his blade once and for all. But beyond all odds, he had done almost the exact opposite. He had done the unthinkable. His eyes widened as he looked into the eyes of Anna. Her face trembled as a thin line of blood ran from the corner of her mouth. Sparda was in total shock. It was as if her and the blade merged. Sparda looked down at his sword in total dismay, as half of it was extended through Anna's stomach, peering out through her back. He panicked and quickly pulled his blade out. Anna slowly dropped to the ground, but Sparda grabbed her before she hit. She was still alive, but he did not know what to say. He panted as he dropped his blade and looked into her eyes. Tears flowed from Anna's eyes once more. Somehow she managed to speak.
You are our last hope.
Her words trailed off, and her eyes closed. Her body fell completely limp. Sparda could not believe what he had just done. His cloven fingers quivered as he held Anna's cold body in his arms. Indescribable emotions ran through his body, and the only way he knew to express them was through pure rage. His eyes became an incredible flaming bright red, and an aura of red energy began emitting from his wings. He was totally disgusted with himself. He wanted to claw the very armor from his body and send himself into oblivion. Pure hate and self-loathing blasted through his veins. The anger continued to grow. The rage, the pain, the hurt. He could feel himself slipping once more, slipping into the black abyss of his soul. And this time, he did not care. He no longer had a reason to care. He had failed in his mission, and what's worse, he had killed the one being that not only showed him the path of righteousness, but showed him that demons can care about beings other than themselves. Nothing else mattered to him as he continued to search for more reasons to build his rage and feed the emotions he did not know how to control. There was only one thought that needed to cross his mind for him to totally lose it.
Mundus!
Uttering that name, Sparda's raw power belted through the tower, causing it to crack and break around its exterior. All who stood in and around the tower stopped in their tracks and looked to its apex. He had become another being. All the righteousness in his soul was now being choked to death by his blind rage, his power. He had given his body up to his dark side, the side that relished in conquest, the side that, if left unchecked, could ultimately destroy both worlds. Red flames surged around the whole of his body, extending across his wings, making them seem 3 times larger. All thoughts of saving the human world left his mind. He now had one goal, and one goal only: the death of Mundus. He teleported away faster than he had ever done, and barreled back towards the portal. He went to hell to defeat the Dark Emperor once and for all, but it was no longer for the sake of humans. He was doing it to quench his rejuvenated bloodthirst, and to suppress the emotions of pain that hit him when he realized that he had killed the only being he had truly cared about. The final battle, the one that would decide the fate of both demon and human realms, the battle that would be remembered throughout history, was about to begin. Chapter 10. Destiny. The rage of Sparda exploded from within as he blasted through the portal. He came to a steady float as his eyes locked on the pristine white fortress of Mundus, the king of hell. Red flames and powerful energy swirled around his body like a violent hurricane ravishing the land. Sparda was ready to put it all on the line. He was ready to unleash all his power. Before Mundus Fortress stood yet another legion of his army. Once more, millions upon millions stared at Sparda, ready to conduct yet another battle. And they all emitted that same purple aura that Sparda had seen before. The power of this army was more than 3-fold what it had been when Sparda faced it before. This battle would truly test his resolve. The first wave barreled towards Sparda like a ferocious sandstorm, but this time there would be no fighting. No swords would be drawn, no blast would be thrown. As they drew no closer than 50 feet from Sparda, their bodies disintegrated completely and turned to ash. The resulting waves suffered the same fate. The sheer absurdity of Sparda's power engulfed them. His very presence foretold their death. As the ashes of the legions of demons swept through the air, it created a windstorm that plummeted into Mundus's hall. And all while this was occurring, Sparda continued approaching the hall, not so much as glancing at his would-be attackers. Sparda came to the gigantic door that stood closed before the hall of Mundus and halted. Usually the door would open with the approach of any demon, but Mundus was intentionally keeping the door shut to further humiliate Sparda. But his attempt would fail. Sparda's energy continued to rage and created a tremendous flaming tempest that not only blew the door to bits, but set Mundus' entire fortress ablaze. And as the rest of the door fell to the ground and burned to ashes, Sparda looked up to see Mundus sitting on his throne, more arrogant than he had ever seen him.
So the pawn has come to confront the king once and for all. Funny, no matter how much you show the public how futile their actions are, they still choose to believe that they have a choice. But you, Sparda, you are different, or at least you choose to believe you are. However, you will come to realize that your uniqueness is an illusion. Even as you stand before me, you still move at the nudge of a string.
No, Sparda said in a low tone.
So you still remain in denial. You still...
No more talking. Mundus was not able to take another breath. Sparda hurled himself at Mundus and planted a vicious haymaker square on his jaw, burning the throne to nothing and sending an incredible shockwave throughout all of hell, causing the fortress to buckle at its foundation and slowly crumble to the ground. Mundus's body went flying through the air, crashing through the back of the hall. Mundus stopped himself in mid-flight, but was befallen by another hard punch to his third eye. The Dark Emperor hovered before Sparda with pieces of his face and body floating around him. Chunks of stone and rock continued to fall as he spoke. Suddenly, Mundus's wings exploded outward, sending out a brilliant white light. The chunks of his body began to reform and come together, recreating his body to perfection. The ground beneath he and Sparda shook wildly, sending an earthquake throughout hell. The tremors of Mundus's power could even be felt in the human world, as the people struggled to maintain their balance. Then, as Mundus's energy pulsated, orange flames burst around his body, sending wind and debris in all directions. The entire land around he and Sparda sank into a chasm of black rocks and lava, and Mundus stood before Sparda more perfect than ever before. His body glistened and his wings shined. The hole that marked the center of his chest for decades was gone. All three of his eyes vibrated an electric red color, and the orange flames around his body covered him like a protective shield. This was Mundus at his full power. Then Mundus was on Sparda like never before. Each traded blows, Mundus punching Sparda in the gut, Sparda slicing Mundus across the chest. Back and forth they went, neither one giving ground. Their battle could not be sustained to one position, as it raged across the lands of hell. Violent explosions and eruptions lit up the entirety of the underworld as they fought. Entire areas were destroyed in the aftermath of their attacks. They both were moving faster than any demon had ever seen. So fast, in fact, the very land was pulled from its foundation and sucked into oblivion as they passed. Whatever demons were left in their wake either hid away in the depths of hell or were immolated at the very sight of the battle. The battle raged on, going back and forth, one gaining a slight upper hand just to see the other come right back for more. Pieces of Mundus' body flew off constantly, due to Sparda's raging red flames, but they came right back together in an instant. Sparda's body was healing faster than it had ever done, regenerating instantly with each blow. Neither devil was giving ground. Both were unbending. The stalemate continued for what felt like hours, but only minutes had passed. As the dust settled and both demons fell back to catch their breath, Sparda felt the underworld trembling once more. But this time neither he nor Mundus was causing it. Yet, it was very familiar to Sparda. Then it hit him. He had felt this same kind of trembling long ago before the portal had opened, like all of hell would break apart. The portal to the demon world was closing. Then he remembered.
Anna, but she said we needed one more key. How could this possibly be happening?
Then a spark went off in Sparda's brain, and the image of Anna's dead body on his blade ran through his mind. His thoughts then drew to the crevice in the center of the hall.
Her blood. She was the final key.
For a split second, Sparda's mind was not on the battle at hand, and he suffered for it. Mundus stunned him with a solid punch to his gut, and unleashed a hailstorm of molten rock upon his head, driving him into the ground below, burrowing deep within the black earth of hell. Sparda came to his feet in an abandoned cave below ground. Not one moment went by before Mundus lifted the ground from above Sparda like a lid, tossing it aside. Sparda brushed the dirt off his armor and glared up at Mundus.
Let's.
As contact was made, another shockwave belted through hell. Many of the clan territories of hell had already been turned to ruin in the wake of the battle, and many more were incinerated as it waged on. Mundus fired underhand flaming meteors at Sparda, who deflected them with his sword, and fired his own brand of flaming projectiles in return. Sparda slashed Mundus across his gut and hit him with a solid uppercut on the chin, sending Mundus backward. As he fell, Mundus whirled around and sent raging fiery tornadoes at Sparda, using the power of his wings. Sparda countered the immense attack by spinning his body around violently, creating a vortex of red flames that dissipated the cyclones. And so the battle continued, raging on like gasoline pouring on an electric fire. Mundus would damage Sparda with an attack only for him to regenerate mid-hit and come back with his own attack that only allowed Mundus to show his own regenerative capabilities. Each were like two impenetrable mountains, unmovable, unrelenting, everlasting. Suddenly, both devils powered up an immense attack. Blasting energy waves at the other. Both waves had enough power to destroy all of hell, and they hit their targets with full force, blasting each out of sight. It seemed that something had finally occurred, that someone had finally gained the upper hand. But that hope was short-lived. Mundus's body, now shattered to pieces once more, came together to reform his perfectly sculpted anatomy. And on the opposite side, Sparda's maimed and scarred body healed, bringing him back to full health. And almost simultaneously, the same thought went through each demon's mind.
I must find another way.
However, unlike Sparda, Mundus had a solution to the dilemma, and Sparda would soon find out what that solution was. Sparda floated in mid-air, poised, his mind half focused on Mundus, half focused on keeping him in hell as the portal closed. Mundus realized what was occurring as well, and knew he would have to end the battle soon if he ever hoped to begin his ultimate rule of both worlds. The stage was set, and the stakes were high. Sparda took deep breaths, pondering his next move. He had already given in to his power, but he had not yet given in to the darkness completely. He still had hope. There was still an inkling of redemption left in him. On the other side, Mundus stared a hole through Sparda, watching his every move. He knew that this was it. It was the last stand. Whatever happened after this would echo for an eternity. And so it began. With both demons at their maximum level of power, they charged. Like nothing ever seen before, they shot toward each other on a collision course of destruction. Trails of red flames lagged behind Sparda and orange flames behind Mundus. They both let out battle cries simultaneously as they neared one another. The moment was finally here. The destinies of both these devils was about to be written. Sparda flew toward Mundus, with both arms held back, his sword in his right hand. Mundus flew with one hand cocked back in a fist. Then suddenly, something astonishing happened. Before they collided, Sparda began to undergo another transformation. It seemed that he had been holding back this attack, the entire battle, as an ultimatum. As his wings grew larger, his legs merged together and extended, forming a long, flaming tail. Then his face began to change and extend outward, and as his horns slid back, elongating his head. He had transformed into an incredible flaming red dragon and was about to send himself right into Mundus. Mundus did not have time to slow down. It was too late. In a vibrant red flash, Sparda sent himself through the very heart of Mundus, collapsing his chest. It was Mundus's only weak point, and Sparda had exploited it. The Dark Emperor fell to the ground, completely stunned as his fresh, yet old wound would not heal. He struggled to get to his feet, digging his fingers into the crumbling ground. Mundus glanced up to see Sparda, back in his normal state, looking down at him. Mundus panted, attempting to hide his pain and anguish. All of hell continued to tremble as the portal to the human world continued to close. The sounds of the battle still echoed off the infinite walls of hell like a deadly mantra telling of events long since past. And then there was silence, utter and complete silence. Sparda floated down before Mundus as he struggled to his feet, and as Sparda expected, Mundus continued his arrogance.
So it seems you've defeated me. But there's one thing I have learned over the ages. There can be fates much worse than death.
Suddenly, Mundus raised both of his hands and began moving them in an almost ceremonial way. And without warning, something began to form above he and Sparda. A triangular gate, a portal of some kind with odd symbols on each apex. This was Mundus's ace in the hole, his trump card. A surging wind began to pulse from the gate with an incredible intensity and began sucking everything into it. But Sparda did not move. He seemed unfazed by what was occurring. Suddenly, Mundus spread his wings, creating a blinding light once more, and Sparda could feel his body being pushed into the gate. But again, he was unfazed and remained calm. And as the light dimmed and the wind stopped, a preposterous scene occurred. Mundus looked to Sparda with a smile. And with that, Mundus clenched his fist, and the portal began to close. But Sparda remained calm, as if he knew something that Mundus did not.
Goodbye,
And then it dawned on Mundus. He looked to Sparda, wondering why he was not struggling to get free, and suddenly his mind flashed back to what just occurred. In the midst of his blinding light, Mundus attempted to shove Sparda into the portal. However, just before he could, Sparda teleported away, causing him to fly into the portal instead of Sparda. In an unfathomable sequence of events, they had traded places. The realization changed the entire expression on Mundus's face. It shifted from one of victory to one of utter dread. He looked up to Sparda to see him grinning the most arrogant, cocky, and prideful grin he had ever seen. As the portal began to close, Mundus's wings snapped and he barreled towards Sparda, attempting to get out before it was too late. But Sparda had other plans.
It will be you who gets locked away for an eternity. I once helped you send one ruler of hell to the same fate. Fitting that you will share that fate as well.
And with those words, Sparda charged up an energy blast with both hands. And sent it right at Mundus, hitting him square in his fresh wound, sending him further back into the portal. The sound of the portal closing was like that of an iron door slamming shut, a prison for the now former ruler of hell. Mundus' cries could be heard even after the vault had closed and faded away. And this time, Sparda had truly done the impossible. He had finally defeated the Dark Emperor Mundus, and without their ruler, the darkness slowly began to lose its power. Hell was gradually becoming a very blurry realm as Sparda flew over its ruins. He did not know what to do with himself. He had finally accomplished what he was destined for, yet he still felt an extreme sense of self-loathing. He despised himself so much that part of him wished he and Mundus had sent one another into oblivion. He had just defeated the ruler of hell, and all he could think about was why he did not deserve to be alive. He came to a purplish area of hell with black pillars, seemingly untouched by the battle. He landed atop one of the pillars and began contemplating his own fate.
I let it overcome me. I could not suppress my power. My righteousness was not enough to defeat Mundus. I gave in to the darkness. I killed.
Pain and anguish flowed through Sparda's body.
I am not worthy to live. This whole time I have fought the darkness, and yet the ultimate darkness resides within myself.
Sparda looked to his sword, the Sparda, the blade bearing his very name. He had gone into many a battle with this blade, killed countless beings, human and demon alike. It was an extension of himself, a reminder of his demonic nature. Then suddenly the blade began glowing as the red flames surrounding it trailed off in the wind. And in a flash of light, the blade had transformed into something else, another blade, appearing like something a human would wield. The hilt had remained the same, but the blade itself no longer was covered with organic material. It was now symmetric and more triangular, like a broad sword. Puzzled at first, Sparda remembered that he had imbued the power of the blade and himself into Anna's amulet. And in the reflection of the blade, Sparda saw himself, the face of a devil. With Mundus defeated and the portal to the human world closing, Sparda was ready to end it right now, to take his own life. He now feared his own power and was fed up with the evil festering inside him like a cancer. But then a ray of hope shot through his mind.
No, this can't be the way. I will not give up. I will fight it. No matter how much it pains me, I will go on. I will continue the fight against evil, and I will show them that the light can overcome the impenetrable darkness.
His thoughts were set on the human world. He had done it. He had written his own fate. He would not die this night. Destiny would not have it. And with that thought, Sparda planted his blade into the black rock of the stone pillar.
I no longer need this. Its dark power will remain here for all eternity.
And so he picked himself up into the air and turned toward the closing portal of the human world. As he flew, the same thought went through his mind over and over, just as it had before.
Anna.
Chapter 11. A Devil's Cry. The rebellion is over. The thought echoed in Sparda's mind as he emerged from the gate that used to bridge the human world and the demon world. The events that had transpired within the past few hours played back through his mind. Even though he had just completed the one right thing in his life, his heart was heavy. As he closes in on the Temen Nigru, he notices that the entire tower has been shifting and hasn't stopped just for him. Then he sees her. The pale body of Anna became more and more apparent. His wings snapped, and he began the glide downward. The carved stonework of the Temen Nigru, filled with the still liquid blood of himself and Anna, knocked underneath his cloven feet, one at a time as he landed. He looked around the scene, tightly grasping the amulet, the key to unlocking his power, and the gate to hell. His gaze turned upward. The orange beam from the tower slowly shrank in circumference. Clouds took their normal shapes and paths, no longer swirling around the gate. The normal patterns of weather were absolutely foreign to Sparda. As the beam finally disappeared, the sound of the gate closing, like a large door, boomed through the sky. The darkness from hell had subsided, and for the first time in years, the stars could be seen peeking through the clouds. People from the underground released themselves from their tension, easing themselves back into reality, into a comfort zone not felt by human beings for years, to some never felt at all. Hatches opened and people emerged from their huts. Children looked up at the sky, mystified at the beauty of it without demonic influence. The beauty of the uninfluenced human world overwhelmed Sparda. The stars, nothing more than mere pinpricks in the black cloth of the sky, almost blinded him. He turned his head away from the sky, only to have his sight set on Anna. Instantly, he felt weak and dazed. He struggled to move his legs, arms, turn his head, anything. His nerve receptors were fried. His lips curled inward and his eyes closed, but he did not know why. His left leg finally shuffled forward. His body felt heavy against itself. His head dropped to face the apex of the tower. Slowly, he moved himself toward her body. The process of moving one leg forward and having enough energy to move the other leg ahead of the first, and repeat the process almost robbed Sparda of all his strength. Each step closer to her body, crumpled over like a rag doll, grew harder, knowing that, in effect, he killed her. The last step towards her was the hardest. His cloven feet fell into place, and the rest of his body followed. He fell to his knees, shins bent under his body, arms fallen at his sides. When his knees hit the roof, the whole of the tower began to shake slightly, barely a tremble. He looked at the corner of the tower and saw, against the backdrop of the village beneath him, that the tower is beginning to dig itself into the ground, rotating slightly to his right. The clouds closed, forming a dark blanket over the land, and it began to rain, slowly at first, but then picked up to a steady drizzle. Sparda struggled to move his arm, and finally succeeded, lifting his hand to move Anna's hair from her face. Her skin still felt warm, and at first it startled Sparda, causing him to draw back his hand. He regained his form and let his hand slide her hair back. When he saw her face, the full force of sorrow hit him like 1,000 hammers. Some believe that when a person sleeps, you can see their true character. Others say that when a person dies, you can't really tell if it's them. But Sparda saw her purity, her will, everything she stood for, everything that made her who she was. The rain hitting her face slid off as fast as it touched her. The rain beating down Sparda pooled in the ridges of his armor. He rubbed his thumb on her face, running it over her smooth cheeks. He saw some of her own blood streaked across her face and wiped it clear. That's when he thought his eyes deceived him.
Did I really just see her eyes flutter slightly?
Anna gasped for air, like she was startled from sleep.
Could she be able to live?
He wondered. He looked down at her abdomen.
No, a wound is fatal.
She opened her eyes with a look of shock and was barely able to recognize him.
Is it over?
Her words trailed off.
Yes, it is.
His words were laden with fear and sorrow. This was the last time he would ever talk with her, and the last time she would talk to anyone. She tried to say something else, but coughed up a large blood clot. Probably the only thing that kept her alive this long. Blood ran from her nose and corners of her mouth. Sparda lifted her into his left arm, holding her by her back, and his right hand ran over her face, wiping the blood off. The tower still shook ever so slightly and rotated, sinking into the ground. Sparda stared deep into her eyes, but didn't know what to say or do for her. She was dying, and there was nothing he could do. Nothing anyone could do. He had conquered countless millions in hell, but he could not conquer death. Her wound was so bad that even one of the vitality orbs Ivan made would not help. Tonight, Anna would die.
Strange.
Anna muttered. Her soft voice, in such a hushed tone, still captured Sparda's attention. She lifted her hand and ran it over Sparda's noseless face.
Death comes for us all, but never at the time we expect it to.
She took so long to say the sentence, using so much energy to talk, that it drained her of life faster with each word.
People can be so evil that no one could have thought this would happen. So consumed with...
Her sentence was cut off by another clot of blood in her throat, choking her and robbing her of life with each second. Sparda tried to keep her alive as long as he could, hoping that someone on the ground could help her. The people gathering below watched as the Temenni grew, the Tower of the Devil, the doorway to the gate to hell, the very structure that made so many cry in fear, sank slowly into the ground. Large chunks of the carved stone that created its architecture cracked and crumbled, falling to the ground, revealing the huge clockwork inside, glowing an evil red, slowly dimming to a yellow, then finally disappearing beneath the stone again as it caved in on itself. Anna coughed up more blood. Her skin turned paler as she continued bleeding. Sparda held her close, letting her head lean against his rigid chest. She lifted her head, resting her chin on his shoulder. Sparda peered outward and saw that they were drawing closer to her world, to her people. He hoped that someone on the ground could help her. It still rained. Even on such a meek night, Anna thought the sky and the world were beautiful. She sort of giggled.
I've never seen the world this way. Even since I was born, the demons were in my life. Then they were in everyone's lives.
She pushed away from his shoulder, still holding him, and looked in his eyes. Suddenly she felt cold, an extreme cold, like nothing she'd ever felt before. It scared her, jolting her somewhat. Even Sparda could feel the rush of cold through her clothes. Panic hit Sparda. Again, another new emotion. He didn't know what to do with it. Then anxiety. Adrenaline pumped madly through his veins. He looked around, all over, hoping that the tower would sink eventually, so that he can get her help, fast. At least 100 more feet or so were left before they were even at a considerable jumping height for her. Calm rushed over Anna, a sort of tranquil state of being, that ultimate notion, that feeling that everything will be all right, that things will work out.
Sparda.
She called his attention.
Yes.
He noticed something different about his voice. Something not quite right. She couldn't hear him. Nothing responded in her body anymore. No more pain, no emotions, temperature, nothing. An empty shell of what she once was. She couldn't even feel herself speak. She struggled to finish her words.
They need someone to help them. A leader. A ray of hope. The light when darkness surrounds. Watch over them.
Suddenly in Sparda's arms, she felt light. Too light, even for his vast strength. Her eyes still stared blindly into his. He reached with his clawed hand and pulled her eyelids down ever so gently. Then the vastest array of emotions and feelings came down upon Sparda all at once, like a mallet beating down a piece of hot iron. His arms and legs trembled. His fingers shook wildly. He felt like reaching into his chest to pull the boulder blocking his lungs out. His eyes felt so strange, warm and cold at the same time. The feeling continued to build, more and more, until he felt like it had reached its limit. But then the feeling built faster. It covered his face, under his eyes, around his mouth. The nerves in his chin vibrated chaotically. The whole of his face felt heavy, so heavy he had to struggle to keep his head up. Then suddenly, a little bit of that feeling was gone, enough to keep him from collapsing. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught something.
Wait,
He thought.
that isn't from the sky. It looks somehow more metallic, yet still liquid in nature.
Something else was in that water drop, something more than mere atoms. It was a piece of himself. It fell almost in slow motion, and he remembered. He'd seen that kind of water before, on Anna's face. He remembered Anna's words from long ago.
Cry? Why do I cry? It's part of an emotion called pain. It happens when you're hurt.
His own words following hers drilled a hole in his mind.
Devils never cry.
The tear fell as if it weighed a ton. It hit Anna's face and rolled quickly off of her smooth, round cheek. The face of a child, of absolute purity, taken by darkness, horrible tyranny.
Why do I cry? I'm a devil. Devils never.
His thoughts were frozen, and a rush of cold hit him, starting at his thumb, where the tear rolled and hit him. The dark armor on his thumb began to almost unravel, like being cut into ribbons, thin, purple ribbons. It traveled down his hand, slowly engulfing the rest of his arm up to the elbow. He managed to see his arm behind the ribbons. It looked the same, but something about it, something metallic. Then, without warning, heat consumed his body, sending heat waves through his face. His legs and feet entered the same realm of cold as his hands. He could not see, but he knew they were unraveling in the same purple ribbons as his arms. He glared up at the sky, feeling the cold rain, hoping it would cool his face. Then, time seemed to stop for him. Everything stopped, no more feelings, nothing. Then pain. An explosion of the cold and heat hit him simultaneously. He dropped Anna's body from the shock. He grabbed his face in reflex, but it felt different. His eyes were blinded by light pouring from his body, out of every single pore in his skin. His face had texture. He covered his eyes with his hands, hoping to block some of the blinding light. His fingers hit something in the way, however, something that was not there before, right in the middle of his face. A second wave of pain jolted him so hard that he fell back to his knees. A burst of white light engulfed his body, and the purple ribbons grew large and exploded outward, surrounding the apex of the sinking tower with a mass of energy. He screamed horrifically due to a pain unknown to him. A pain so deep it rattled him to the bones. The amulet dropped on Anna's belly. The red stone shined a reflection of Sparda as he became engulfed in light. People watching the sight of the tower sinking jumped back in fear. Some were so close, they felt the wind rush outward and it almost knocked them down. The explosions of purple ribbons snatched everyone's eyes. They all wondered what was happening. No one among them was aware that their leader had died at the hands of a demon. The tower was almost completely submerged. People stood on their toes, hoping to catch a glimpse of the scene. Sparda stood erect. He felt different, both heavy and lighter at the same time, almost as if his skin was heavier. Trees could be seen creeping over the edge of the tower. He leaned down and picked up Anna one last time. He did not notice that his armored skin was now full metal armor, the kind a human could cast, but still very majestic. Verily, he did not notice the skin, the human skin, pushing and pulling against the chainmail. The faceplates on his helmet clanked as he simply stepped off the apex and onto solid ground. His gaze was fixed on Anna, her arms hanging limp. To him, his eyesight was still the same, in that they still glowed a flaming bright red. He looked up and saw an amazing sight, hidden behind the adorned horns of his new cast-iron helmet. Hundreds of people, all staring at him. He quickly shunned himself and hung his head. In his mind, he was still a demon, and he feared the backlash of the humans against his unarmed self. Wind whipped at his back, and as he turned, he saw a cape where his wings used to be. He examined the rest of his body, and finally saw that it was not as it had been mere minutes before. He knelt before the crowd, and gently laid out Anna's body, crossing her arms over her chest. He looked at her again, in her closed, dead eyes. He reached out to touch her, and finally saw his hand, covered by a metal glove, clicking together at the joints of the fingers. He clasped his hands together, crossing his fingers over one another, then applied pressure with one hand and slid the other back. Then his realization began. He was shocked to see a human hand with 5 fingers and dirt crammed under the nails. With his freed hand, he pulled the other glove off to find the same thing, 5 fingers, human skin. In utter disbelief, he reached across his chest to his shoulder, pulling the armor off his torso. The purple cape fell behind him. The beautifully polished metallic armor fell into his lap, and he quickly tossed it aside. The crowd watched, wondering. They looked on to see him reach up to his chin, undo a fastener on his helmet, and raise it by the horns. Sparda was caught off guard by what fell from his helmet. Hair, as pale as the moon. Brutus emerged from the crowd as he grew anxious and approached Sparda.
Excuse me.
Sparda's head snapped up with the speed of a demon, and his eyes glared at the man intently. However, his view was obstructed by the hair that reached cheek level and rested on his shoulders and laid down his back. Wind pulled the hair this way and that way. The feeling of the hair grazing against his face tickled him, sending a new feeling through his newly tuned nerves. Brutus continued.
Who are you?
His question wasn't marked by anger, but by confusion.
I am...
Sparda's voice surprised him. No longer was it brooding and filled with evil. His words flowed out of his mouth rhythmically and elegantly. His voice was still deep, but not unnaturally deep for a human.
I was her friend.
The tears began to fill his eyes again. He reached up and placed his fingers over his eyes, finding the new skin extremely absorbent of water. He pulled his hands away, and the tears continued to form. A single drop slid down his cheek and wrapped around to his mouth. The salty taste of it made Sparda jump slightly, hardly enough to notice. The wind whipped again. Goosebumps ran over Sparda's back and chest continuously as the wind hit him. His hair whisked about, swerving back and forth. As he came to his feet, he reached up and put his hand on his face, feeling his nose. As his hand grazed his eyes, the pain from before filled them, but only for a split second. He then ran his hand upwards over his face and through his hair, soaked with sweat. It slid back easily and laid against his head. As his hand fell back to his side, he saw differently again. Now, even more colors, more than he has ever seen as a demon, were present. The crowd was taken aback by the deep, rich blue color of his eyes. Another person, a woman, stepped forward. With a look of disbelief, she held her arms out.
You fought them with no weapon.
Sparda remembered his sword, thrusting it deep into the purple stone in the underworld, leaving his power behind.
I had a sword. It is in their world now.
Whispers from the crowd ran rampant.
A sword? He must have been trained since birth.
The best the world has ever seen.
He will become a legend among our people.
What's your name?
Brutus called out. Sparda raised his head and called out his name.
Sparda.
Just then, he saw a man run from the crowd back to the village.
You protected us. You saved us.
Another voice said. Sparda stood still as the crowd gathered around him. Everyone ran their hands over him. The feeling caused Sparda's skin to tremble. One person picked up his purple cape and draped it over his shoulders. Two men carried Anna's body away. Sparda quickly went to grab for her amulet. But before he could, it was taken by a hand and placed over his head.
The legendary Dark Knight Sparda,
a voice called. The crowd echoed the new name in whispers and nods. Sparda recognized one man from many nights long since past, the one who made weapons for Anna. He held a large box in his hands and presented it to Sparda.
I made these for her, to fight them. I think she would want you to have them.
He opened the box and presented the gifts to Sparda. Sparda extended his hand and held one of the twin gifts. Ivan tapped the other with his finger.
They'll never run out of ammo.
Sparda examined them again and read aloud.
Luz and Ombra.
Looking at the twin pistols, the biggest ever created, he remembered Anna's last words.
Watch over them.
Sparda held his head high and a very human smile stretched across his face.
I intend on it.
The end. Epilogue. The New World. 1,500 years had passed since the portal to the demonic realm was sealed. The streets were lit by the orange glow of overhanging street lamps illuminating its dark alleys. Tall skyscrapers scratched the clouds of the moonless night. Times had changed. No longer did freshly knit rugs hang over the fish markets overlooking wooden huts and campfires. The druggy wet ground was replaced by asphalt streets and cement sidewalks. Single-story huts were replaced by multi-story apartment complexes and two-story brownstones. Iron had given way to stainless steel. Wood had given way to aluminium and plastic. Hands were replaced by the cold metallic grip of machines. The works of nature had been replaced by the works of man, a world ruled by science. But underneath the shroud of artificiality still lived a world long since past, a world forgotten over time and reduced to fairy tale, a world that still persisted in the depths of night. They, the demons, still lurked as their will was undying. Over time, demons found ways to break free, but none had ever returned to report. On this cold night, one of these demons, of the Hell clan, had broken free of the gate and found its way into an alleyway between two dark buildings. It peered around a corner and saw the human world, completely different from stories it had heard of how their world had been in ancient times. It was so different from the world described during the rebellion, the world that the traitor attempted to save. The new technological advances almost scared him.
How are they this smart?
It thought. Then suddenly, twin .45 caliber, hallow-tipped bullets tore through its demonic knees, sending it crashing to the ground. In the shadow of the alley, it saw a figure approaching, a human, a man. It screamed and grunted as the man shoved the hot-tipped barrel of one of his pistols directly into one of the demon's wounded knees. The man stood up tall and looked the demon in the eyes without so much as flinching. He was fearless.
Who are you?
The demon squealed.
I am the light that surrounds darkness. I am the hope in the face of despair. Even devils will cry before they taste my blade.
The twin .45 barrels, one as dark as the alley, one covered in chrome, smoked as the man holstered them on his back underneath his purple velvet coat. At his left, a thin oriental sword was looped to his leather belt. On his back, a huge broad sword accented with a skull, and crossed bones at the hilt loomed over his right shoulder. The white slicked back hair, the monocle, the purple battle-worn clothes, the glowing red amulet in the top center of his waistcoat.
In strange eons, even death may die.
The man pulled the katana from its sheath with his left hand, holding it high over his head. At the same time, he brought the broad sword from his side and up, sending the vanguard skyward. As the demon flew upward, the man brought the katana down with precision, splitting the demon in two. In continuance with his move, he resheathed the broad sword on his back and twirled the katana around his fingers, quickly sliding it back into its sheath. The demon lay on the cold alleyway concrete, slowly dying.
How? You are just a human.
The man allowed the demon to speak as he stared him dead in his eyes.
Wait. No. It cannot be.
The demon seemed to come to an awful realization in an instant.
No. It can't be you. You died. The Master killed you.
The demon had heard about this being for 1,000 years, but he was told that Mundus killed him in his final moments in the human world.
Those eyes. You are him. You are Sparda.
The man did not hesitate with his next move. He quickly pulled out the twin pistols and aimed them at the demon's carcass.
You got that right.
Its body was riddled with bullets until all that was left was its ashes. The man placed his smoking guns back under his coat and put his hands in his pockets. He stepped out from the alley and walked down the street. As he passed under a street lamp, the light draped over his human form, but casts a dark shadow over his true demonic form, following him until he faded from sight.